Hello, hello. All right. So, as I have been lately, we're gonna be playing some Zelda, listening to some Call of Cthulhu type shit in the background while I just fucking chill tonight, I guess. Until something else lands on my plate, which I highly doubt anything will anytime soon. Just about ready to go. Just got a few things to load up real quick. Alright, looks like we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and switch over to game mode real quick. Oh, that's the wrong one. That should be the right one, and it's functioning poorly. Okay, that's fine. Happens. I'll go ahead and stop the music here in just a moment while I get the rest of this good. Let's refresh the audio in the game real fast. Alright. And we can close out of this program, and then we could start up the Call of Cthulhu stuff. I believe I left off... Impa is real fast. I learned that she's very fast. She went from point A to point B in like the matter of a second. And I need to go over to her again and do something. I don't remember what, though. I'm sure she'll tell me. So it's not a big deal. As for the Cthulhu shit, we're going to continue with the, I guess, a modern retelling of The Shadow over Innsmouth. We left off on episode... which one? Episode 9. Out of quite a few from the looks of it.
BBC Sounds, music, radio, podcasts.
Awesome.
The following recording was sent to me by Dr. Mark Lyman just prior to his death.
And we're just going to chill.
As far as we've been able to tell, it is authentic. The recording was made on a phone.
Audio levels are
and
good.
It was sent to Lyman by Dr. Jonathan Willett at 10:37 p.m. on the 31st of May 2018. That means Willett sent it just a few minutes after he murdered Lucy Hawthorne.
This is Jonathan Willett. It's 9:42 in the evening on May 31st, 2018. I'm standing outside. Doesn't matter. If anyone is hearing this, you'll know where I am. If you're listening to this recording, this is how it ended.
My TV's doubling the audio. There we go.
Hello?
Lucy Hawthorne.
Yeah?
My name's Willett, Jonathan Willett. I'm a doctor. I'm a psychiatrist.
Okay.
May I speak with you?
What is this about?
Your cousin was a patient of mine.
I don't actually have a cousin.
Yes, Charles Dexter Ward. I don't believe you ever met. He lived in the United States.
So how exactly are we related?
Through a man named Joseph Kerwin.
I don't know that name either.
May I have a few moments of your time?
No, I'm
I
sorry.
have credentials.
I'm sure you do, but whatever you show me, I'm not qualified to judge the authenticity.
I'm not lying to you.
You understand? I'm just not gonna let anyone walk into my
But
flat.
I know who you are.
Okay, you need to leave, or I'm gonna call the police.
Oh, shit. I think I'm supposed to have her there. Oh, well. My bad.
Jeg engang jeg sothor. Lechli by Frodo
Okay,
Kiwa.
money, but you can take my card.
Get on
and
there.
The pin numbers.
Otro I gleb.
I'm gonna get up off the floor. My boyfriend is due home at any minute.
Sothor yangai stro. Yo sothor yangai stro.
You're not even saying it right. Yang, yok, so forth. He levde der Frodo var och tror livet. Jag sådant yang zoho. I am who you seek.
Yaku Aya.
I have many names. I inhabit many vessels.
Only one now. Charles Dexter Ward is dead. I killed him. Or rather, I destroyed what he had become. I know what you are. I've seen the experiments in the tunnels.
Now you've come to kill this poor little girl.
To do whatever it takes to stop you.
You do not understand the truth of things.
I won't see this girl go through what Charles went through. I saw him at the end. He had become
Oh, yes.
a monster.
You cannot see the world as it is. Let me show you the beauty.
No. No.
Take my hand, Dr. Willett. If you want to understand, you need to see it. You came here to kill me.
No, not you.
I didn't understand why. Please. This is where I go in my dream. It's beautiful. gaze upon the real amateurs.
Oh, he's having a good time.
I have seen the face of God. And it is terrible.
It's a modern retelling of H.P.
Matthew
Lovecraft's
This
Shadow
is the
over
Mystery
Innsmouth.
Machine.
Vodka lime?
Great, thank you.
Can I get you something to drink, sir?
Certainly you can. I'll have a whiskey, please, on the rocks.
Did you have a particular whiskey in mind? We have.
Oh, no, whatever you think.
If I remember right, the guy that's talking right now is not exactly who he says he is.
I had you down as a beer drinker.
Is that right?
And the
Or,
woman that's
Scotch,
talking is
I
a
suppose. Me,
reporter.
hard drinking reporter, 3 sheets to the wind, but sharp as a tack.
Not so sharp, I guess. You had me fooled. Dr. Allen.
I really wanted that filet mignon. Murder makes one absolutely ravenous, don't you find?
I wouldn't know.
Oh, shit.
Well, the night is young. Shall we go somewhere a bit quieter?
Let's not.
You'd rather I just confessed all right here.
She'd rather you confessed all to her tape recorder. Barbara Sayers has just joined us.
Was that for the benefit of the tape?
I think we'd benefit from a little privacy for the moment, don't you?
Hello.
It's Ezra Wheaton. Have you heard from Kennedy?
Not recently, I thought.
She was supposed to be having dinner with this George Shepley character.
Right.
There's no such person.
George is the librarian.
No, he isn't. George Shepley doesn't exist. But I think whoever this guy is, he just killed Dr. Lyman and his assistant.
Jesus. Where is Kennedy?
She's not here. I called her to warn her, and she was already at the restaurant. I'm here now, and there's no sign of Kennedy. The maitre d' says she left with Shepley and another woman.
What
Oh,
woman?
shit.
I can't get a useful description out of anyone. Older, maybe 50s or 60s.
Oh, okay, I'm going to see if I can track her phone.
You
I
smashed
tried
your
to
head at
switch it
work.
off.
Wait, why?
Everything she recorded, you
That,
got, right?
sorry, that was a dumb question, but
Yeah,
how?
she
I meant
uploaded
is what I
all
meant.
to
to
our
say.
server
So
today.
I'm
She didn't
tired.
upload a
Okay,
couple
Okay, so
I've
there's
dealt
no
with
reason for them
customers all
to
day
stop
myself.
anything getting out.
No,
I hope you're
Unless
okay.
they have people coming for you too.
I'm safe here.
All right. Well, I'm going to make some calls and get the security camera footage from the parking lot here. Any calls you can
We
make,
should call the police.
I'll take care of that. Anything you think would be helpful, you do it.
At the bottom
I'm
of
on this
Canyon
number.
Hebra.
I knew the woman who left that restaurant with Kennedy and George Shepley must be Barbara Sayers. Everything we thought we knew about Shepley was a lie, but I figured I might have a slim chance of tracking Barbara Sayers.
All right. Let's see. Where do I
Mr.
want to go,
Talbot,
though?
It's Matthew Hayward. We spoke a few
necessarily
weeks
wanna
ago
go
about
there
your
yet.
sister.
Oh, dear. You're not very bright, are you, Mr. Hayward?
Barbara Sayers. There was never a sister.
You're finally catching on.
Why pretend? What was the point of that?
Someone had to put you on the right track. Honestly, you were hopeless. Pathetic, really, stumbling around in the dark.
I don't understand.
No, that was all too apparent. But you've done your job now. And I'm still in the midst of mine, and I'm afraid I'm rather busy.
Where's Kennedy?
Goodbye, Mr. Hayward.
And that's when it all started to come together for me, I think. The final pieces of the puzzle. I didn't know what Shepley and Barbara Sayers wanted with Kennedy, but I was starting to realize that they'd been following us as avidly as we were following them,
Makes sense.
and that we were playing into their hands. And I remembered what Shepley, as Dr. Allen, had said to me after he killed Dr. Lyman. Dr. Lyman?
Amelia Fenner had a child.
Dr. Allen. Charles Dexter Ward is dead. Lucy Hawthorne is dead. Shepley and Sayers are looking for another vessel for Ibkuaya, someone who shares DNA with Joseph Kerwin. And we had unwittingly found one.
Oh, fuck. I've done that many
Amelia
times when I
Fenner
was working in the
was
kitchen.
in the New Forest Coven with Kerwin. If she had his child... Hi, I really need to see Amelia Fenner.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Hayward.
Are you a relative?
No, I'm not. I was here last week talking to her.
Well, I'm afraid
I
that...
appreciate it's the middle of the night, but this is very important.
No, it's not
No,
that.
this is very important.
Amelia passed away, I'm afraid.
She died.
Very peaceful.
When?
2 hours ago.
When did she died?
I'm afraid it was not a relative.
No, okay, I
Take the hit.
Did she have any
Get the fuck up.
visitors before she...
I'm not sure. Are you suggesting that...
No, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just asking the question.
I wouldn't be able to give out that kind of
Because
information.
I'm not a relative.
Those are the rules.
Did she have any
Well, at least it
relatives?
was only the flat part, not the
I'm sorry,
corner.
I can't.
No, I get it.
I've hit my head on the corners many times. Not the flat part. But I have bad luck like that.
Hello again. Nice to see you up and about.
Amelia Fenner is dead.
Yeah, so I heard. Made me very sad.
Was it you?
Oh, that's charming. Second time we've met and you're accusing me of murdering an old lady.
Well, the first time we met, I ended up in hospital.
Yeah, I have that effect on people.
Did you kill her?
I'd advise you not to answer that question. Mr. Hayward, Godfrey Tillinghast. I'm an avid listener to your pod thingy. Might we have a word in private?
Nothing too terrible, though, I hope.
I'm sorry no one's here to take your call, but please leave a message after the tone and someone will get back to you right away.
I wasn't paying attention to what he said. What does he want?
That was your friend, Mr. Hayward.
Lost the Korok seeds that were in his maracas. Sounds like the children that first
Actually,
took
he's
them. If you
everything
collect Korok
to
seeds,
do
bring
with
them
this,
to us,
but
too.
we really don't care about Matthew Hayward
Don't
anymore.
care about expanding inventory. I'm trying to go bare minimum.
Who do you imagine you and Mr. Hayward have been working for?
We don't work for anyone.
All right, I'll rephrase that. Who do you think has been financing your little radio show? That cash injection that Matthew was so excited about a couple of months ago?
That doesn't make sense. Why?
Because of you, Kennedy. Because of what the two of you uncovered. Something we've been looking for quite some time.
Oh, it doesn't matter. And we don't have time for this.
Barbara's jumping.
Make your pitch. You know she's gonna say no.
We want you to join us.
I don't. I want to gut you like a fish.
I want you to join us.
I'm Team Barbara.
No. You're curious, you're interested, and more importantly, you have seen.
What have I seen?
You've seen wonders. The seeds of creation beneath the Kerwin house.
Yours and Charles Dexter Ward's science experiment.
Understandably so.
I don't know what I saw.
They don't want to get sued.
We need people
But
like you, Kennedy.
at least you're doing okay. It's not a concussion, I would assume.
A bunch of mumbo-jumbo fairy-tale bullshit.
We are Legion.
You're tragic.
Oh, wake up. Look at the world around you.
Yeah, it's all fucked. You think you're the solution?
Kennedy, no. We're not the solution. We're the reason. You think a religion exists in secret for 2,500
Yeah, it usually is in
years,
kitchens.
and all it amounts to is the two people standing in front of you now? We're nobodies.
What am I
Nothing.
doing here?
We are a tiny, tiny cog in an enormous
Guess I can make
machine.
something.
Your whole investigation has led you to uncover just the smallest glimmer of a truth so big you couldn't begin to comprehend it. And that's what we're offering you now. The greatest truth about the world, about human beings, about who we are, and why we're here.
Just turtles all the way down? Oh, if you think it's a big secret, you've infiltrated the establishment. We already know about killing gas.
We haven't infiltrated the establishment. We are the establishment.
And yet, whatever it is you're looking for, you need me to find it. That doesn't sound like you have things sewn up, does it?
Barbara, I think we need to show the world as it really is.
This world you've created for us is really rather sinister, don't you think?
I've created it.
Well, it's certainly someone's fabric.
Oh, shit. Yeah, so it's even hotter.
Oh, well, we wouldn't want to spoil it, would we? I'm sure your listeners would be. You're recording this, I take it?
Yes, I am.
And you don't need me to sign some sort of release form?
Well, not now that I have you acknowledging the recording, no. So you're saying I've made all this up?
Well, I don't want to point the finger specifically. Well, I can tell a few different people seem to have been pulling your leg, and well, you seem to have joined some rather improbable dots.
And who would that be?
Well, those Americans, haven't you? No idea what their game is, do you?
You knew Joseph Curry.
I never even heard the name before someone pointed me to your radio show.
Barbara Sayers was the nanny to your granddaughter.
Poor Lucy, I do wish she hadn't been dragged into this. I'm sure she had several nannies. I can't say that I recall meeting any of them.
And your grandnephew, Charles Dexter Ward.
Well, obviously he existed, and
That
I
shadow.
met him.
What the fuck?
Eliza and I escaped the last 20 years ago.
Why not?
Because she was dedicated to the resurrection of an ancient Mesopotamian sorcerer. You really are quite the most prejudiced person I have ever met, Mr. Hayward.
Perfect.
Yeah. One can't entirely blame you, of course. You're the kind of person who needs everything to fit together neatly into a story. I'm afraid some people have rather taken advantage of you in this respect.
Where are we?
All in good time.
Ordinarily, we would not allow recording devices
Will
anywhere.
you put a socket in this door? After you, Mr. Hayward. Mr. Hayward, allow me
So it's
to
like the
present
back room
Dr.
of the back
Johnson
room of the kitchen.
Oh, dear God.
Well, hey, hello. So before you stop listening,
You can't start it with hey, hello. We're not in California. Okay, go Rogan.
all right. Hello, I'm Rohan Zoran. I'm an entrepreneur.
And I'm Carl Ahmed, and we are launching a new podcast. It is about entrepreneurs and it's for everyone.
It's called The Disruptors, and it features the stories of founders, people who started businesses, how they did what they did, and all the challenges and ups and downs they went through to get there.
Plenty of dark moments and plenty of
That sucks.
inspirational stories told by the people who experienced them. Subscribe to The Disruptors on BBC Sounds.
All right, what am I doing? Let's see. Okay.
This is the BBC.
That as well.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
Okay.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Yeah, let's see. Tabitha was where? There
Mr.
somewhere.
Hayward, allow me to present Dr. Jonathan Willett.
Oh, dear God. What happened? What happened to him?
I can hear you.
I'm told he somehow got access to the kitchens and tried to tip a pan of boiling water over his own head.
Is that what you heard?
One of the orderlies managed to catch his arm in time and stop the rest of it. But he lost his sight and, well, you can see the damage for yourself.
You did this to yourself.
If you say so.
Dr. Willett, my name is Matthew Hayward. I make a podcast called The Mystery Machine, and we're investigating the case of Charles Dexter Ward.
It's all gone. All gone.
He's gone. Yes, where did he go?
He's gone. He's gone. He's vanished into dust.
Into dust.
As you can see,
Hell yeah.
it doesn't make very much sense.
Actually, that...
Take all the time you need and just relax.
Guy, you're so thought.
Take some pills, pour some tussin on it.
What is that? Is it an invocation from the Necronomicon?
I have seen the face of God.
And it is terrible.
Well, I thought you two would get along famously. Warden!
Yes, time's up now. Right.
That guy losing his shit.
As you can see, Mr. Hayward, Dr. Willett is severely...
Doolally.
That's how you describe the man who murdered your granddaughter?
Very well. Murderously doolally. The reason I brought you here, Mr. Hayward, the reason I twisted the warden's arm to allow you in and to allow
Let's
you
see,
to record.
where else can I go? I think I'll just do these for now.
Put a stop to this nonsense for the sake of our family, for my granddaughter's memory, for the sake of truth and sanity. I have no idea what that
Let's see what's over here.
what caused his mind to snap, but you can very well see that it has snapped, and that the death of poor Lucy was a consequence.
I'm not sure whether...
You have fabricated a story.
We haven't fabricated anything.
Then you've been misled. Either way, this program of yours is causing considerable distress, and I would like it to stop. You've seen the condition of Dr. Willett. He's not a reliable witness to the events you claim to have uncovered, so either you stop now, or I will give you the full weight of the courts.
And you want me to tell a judge all about the beating I received at the hands of your friend out in the car?
I know nothing about that.
Of course you don't. And you know nothing about Joseph Kerwin or your wife and your sister's involvement with
This is what I'm talking about. It's called defamation, Mr. Hayward. It carries severe legal and financial penalties. I'm not the man you want to tangle with in these matters.
And yet, here we are.
Excuse me?
Yeah, depending on how bad the wound is.
I haven't said a
Using
single
some
thing
sort
about
of
you or
blood
your
thinner
family
like that
can't
could
be
fuck it up more.
corroborated
Mr. Hayward.
or backed up by published
Got a
material.
bandage on your head or
turn
anything
away,
like that?
Because I'm going to continue telling this story.
There is no story.
Better yet, have you had a chance to speak with a doctor and have them take a look at it and
I'll
make sure that you're not...
Everything you've said here is broadcast. I wouldn't want to be
You're not.
accused of
You don't have like a
censoring
hemorrhage or anything like
you.
that.
We're done here, are we? And at that point, I stormed out of the room.
What is this?
I made the storming out as theatrical as I could, because I didn't want either of them to notice that I'd left the recorder on a chair still running.
Could have gone better. He'll drop this, one way or another.
Guess I could go that
Even
way.
if he doesn't, no one's going to believe a word. He says he has witnessed. It's all just fake news.
Ah, shit.
Is it some kind of secret occult language? Whatever it is, I'd heard it on the tape.
Well, I hope everything ends up being okay.
Is present on some of the early Ward Willett tapes, though it's not clear there where it's actually coming from. Is it Ward speaking, or is it an ambient sound in the room?
All you can really do then is just stay awake and deal with it until
slept for about
tomorrow.
10 hours solid. I think that's the most I've slept since we started this story. It's certainly the most relaxed I've felt. Why is that, I wonder? Well, certainly there should be things to worry about. Maybe it all seems so big now, so all-encompassing, that it's impossible to process. I'm worried about repercussions, about being sued.
That's the thing about concussions, is that you don't know if you have a
Now
concussion.
all that has come to pass. I've been put in hospital, Kennedy has vanished
Keep that in
again,
mind.
and now here's Dr. Willett, clearly insane and horribly disfigured, and certainly no use as a witness to anything. And Godfrey Tillinghast, one of the most powerful men in the country, is promising to sue us if we continue with the show. So maybe my brain just shut down. When I woke up, it was the middle of the afternoon. There were a bunch of missed calls on my phone and an email from Godfrey Tillinghast's lawyers, assuring me I would be receiving a cease and desist letter via courier in the next few hours. I got dressed and I went into the studio. And when I got there, Kennedy Fisher was waiting for me. Where's that? Yeah, I'm recording. So, I've just walked into the studio and Kennedy...
Everything has to be recorded.
This is Ezra. Ezra, this is Matt.
Hi, where were you?
The good old US of A.
Yes, I know. Where have you
We
been?
landed a couple of hours ago. A bit over Shepley and Sayers. She's still out there somewhere.
Okay, so where?
Amelia Fenner. She had a child.
Yes, I know.
It's Joseph Kerwin's kid.
Amelia Fenner
The last
died
link.
last night.
How?
Officially of old age, I have my
We
suspicions.
need to find the kid. There's no record of any family.
I know. I think
hope
she must
that's
have
all
given
it
the kid
is.
up for adoption. Either that, or she left it somewhere to be found. I suspect she wasn't the most responsible.
The kid is who they're after.
Yes, but slow down, because there's no way we can find an
I could
adopted
make
child.
some calls.
Who to?
They were done with us.
You say done.
They've been funding the show because they wanted us to find him. They wanted us to find the next heir to Joseph Kerwin.
But we didn't.
We did.
That's all
They
I
didn't know
needed.
about Amelia Fenner. They probably never even heard the name before you found her. But that's what they were looking for. And somehow, they now know she had a child.
But how? I didn't even know until Shepley or Alan, whoever he is, told me.
But they know, which means she's ahead of us.
Who's she?
Whoever Sayers.
What about Shepley? Where's he?
Talk to Ezra.
Where's Shepley?
Can we do this in life?
Whoops. Why'd I fucking dive down like an idiot?
What's up with her? What happened?
You need to turn that off.
Okay, you're not there.
I know I gotta shut turn it off.
If this had been Kennedy, I'd have turned the recorder off without a second thought. But I didn't know Ezra, and I didn't want anything he told me not to be on the record. How? What happened?
After I spoke to her, I got a buddy of mine to track him.
I thought it found gone.
He came back on me. Anyway, they were at an hotel outside. I didn't plan on doing anything more than confirming this was where Kennedy was.
I stream almost every night.
Then I got to the door and
I got nothing else to do after work, so I might as
I
well.
busted in. Shepley came at me. He had a knife in his hand. I shot him. The woman, Barbara Sayers, was heading out the back way, and Kennedy was just hunched in the corner, her head tucked between her knees. She was catatonic or something. I never saw anything like that. Non-responsive. So I stayed with her and got her out of there, rather than go after Sayers.
Ezra said there was a strong smell of incense in there and some symbols drawn on the floor in chalk. And it was his impression that some kind of ritual had been taking place. He says Kennedy wasn't speaking or responding, but she seemed to be physically okay. He put her in his car and drove away. What he should have done was called the cops and faced the music, because he supposedly shot George Shepley in self-defense. Ezra, for whatever reason, decided not to do that. Instead, he drove back to Kennedy's hotel, collected her things, and got them both on the first plane to London. I don't think George Shepley had a knife. I think that's why Ezra didn't call the cops. Maybe he thought Shepley was armed. Maybe he knew he wasn't, but what he walked in on made him... I don't know. But I think he saved Kennedy's life. 5. And if we're even half right about what Shepley and Sayers and the others have been up to, then I really don't care about the cost of that. It seemed to be a relief for Ezra to talk to someone about what had happened. I thanked him for rescuing Kennedy, and then we came back into the studio.
1962. That's when Caroline Hughes and Eliza Tillinghast both got pregnant and they fled the New Forest Coven. Amelia Fenner said that the police raid started up almost immediately, supposedly on Godfrey Tillinghast's say-so.
Well, he seems to be back on board with the whole thing now.
And because he had control of the Ipkuaya bloodline, his wife and his sister are both carrying Kerwin's children. He didn't need Kerwin anymore. Anyway, not the point. Amelia Fenner told you that Kerwin left the coven within a week or so. Supposing that was his window, he'd lost track of the 2 potential heirs, so he needed insurance.
Amelia Fenner?
And she said that she left the coven soon after that. She said she hooked up with some witches over in Winchester, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
There's a story here from the local paper in Winchester. A baby being left on the steps of a hospital in 1963.
That's a leap.
It's right.
How'd you know?
I don't know, but I know. It feels right.
What happened to the kid? It goes into the system.
Which means it disappears without trace.
Nope. It was a girl. They called it Destiny. The nurses at the hospital.
Course.
Thank you, hippies. So, a girl called Destiny, born in Winchester in 1963. There is one of them, unsurprisingly. Orphanage, foster homes, married a guy called Gibson in 1985 in Chelmsford, divorced in 1991, remarried in 1996 to a man named Cartwright. They had a daughter in 1999.
It's not going to be Destiny thereafter, then. It's the daughter.
Melody.
Oh, Jesus.
Melody Cartwright. And yes, that's who they're after. Destiny's dead.
How?
Car accident, like Charles Ward's mother.
And Lucy Hawthorne's mother was out of the picture too. Is this a pattern?
Maybe.
Yes, it is a pattern.
She's a student here at UCL. She's studying the archaeology of the Middle East.
And she's in the coven.
We're
clearly.
outside one of the halls of residence at University College London, where Melody Cartwright lives during term time. I'm waiting outside with Ezra Whedon while Kennedy goes in to see if she can locate Melody.
Matt, Ezra, this is Akuma. She's Melody's roommate. Akuma, can you tell these guys what you told me?
Melody's away recording our podcast.
Really?
Yeah, this morning a man and a woman approached us just here as we were going to the library. They wanted to interview Melody for a show they're making.
What do these people look like?
I don't really, I guess, like people who make podcasts. Casual, maybe 30, white. A man and a woman.
There wasn't anyone else with them? A woman in her 60s or a well-dressed man who would be older?
I didn't see anyone else.
Tell them what the show's called.
Oh, I think Mystery Machine? Is that right? Is that a podcast?
Do you have a number for Melody or an email address?
That's
Actually,
their
any
own
contact
podcast,
details?
so they're trying to pretend to be them.
Thank you. Sorry to drag you away from your work.
Is Melody in trouble?
No, don't worry, she's fine. Thanks, Akuma.
We're too late.
Yeah, I tried the phone and it's going straight to voicemail. My guess would be they've dumped it already.
Where would they take her? Kennedy,
I need to talk to you.
I'm here.
In the studio. I need to tell you what I saw.
Okay. I'm recording.
This is a lot bigger than we thought. And I don't just mean Tillinghast's involvement or whoever else.
You mean what Shepley said?
Can we not call him that? George Shepley was a nice man who didn't exist. This was Dr. Allen.
Yeah, okay.
But no, I don't just mean what he said. I'm talking about what I saw.
He said he was going to show you the world as it really is.
Yeah. And before that, in the tunnels under the trailer park.
What was in the hole? You went into that last chamber and there were those metal trapdoors in the floor. There was water down there. You opened one up.
Stop. I can't describe what it was. I can't find the words. No, that's not right. It's not me. It's not a vocabulary issue. I don't have the language. You know, that theory of linguistics that we can't talk about something we don't have a word for. if language can't describe it and the brain can't really... You can have it in your head, but you can't get a firm grasp of it without language. There's no language to describe this thing. What was in those pits were creatures. Not animals.
Shit.
Not human. It was like they existed in
It's not
more
going
than
further
3
than that?
dimensions.
Fuck. Okay.
You ever have a migraine?
Yeah.
And you get that thing just before it hits where your vision goes weird and you can't focus in the center. So the middle of your vision goes blurry.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So that's what it's like looking at this thing. My eyes are taking it in, but my brain can't make sense of it. So it won't render it as a solid, distinctive shape. It's like I have an impression of it, of how it made me feel. But I can't quite picture it in my mind.
Okay, so how did it make you feel?
I want to say scared, but actually that's not right. What I felt was more than that. I felt wonder.
What do you mean?
I was awestruck. And not because of how it looked, but because of what it was. And of course, I had no conscious idea of what it was. But at the same time, I knew what I was looking at. Listen,
Fuck.
I know how this sounds.
God damn it. Why do you gotta be
But
here?
I think I was looking at something like
No,
God.
no. Damn it. Leave me alone.
This was a creature.
Fuck.
In a pit, in a cavern
Alright,
underneath the
alright,
ground.
I'm
Yeah,
probably
like
gonna
I
die
say,
here.
I know how it sounds.
That's fine. That's
I looked at it, and it seemed to invade my mind. It changed me.
Damn it. No, you fucking cucks. No, you fucking cucks.
Experienced for a few moments.
Damn it.
Total madness. It was like I was suddenly aware that everything in reality was a lie. And none of it made the slightest bit of sense. Science, religion, culture. It was like this disjointed white noise, and none of it connected up, and none of it really existed. Like it was all just a series of snapshots of something that I'd previously stitched together to make this fabric of reality, and now it had all come apart. Like it was ripped into tiny shreds, and there was no way to put it back together again. And then I woke up in hospital.
And you were back to normal?
Functionally, yeah. Honestly, I don't know.
Where do they spawn?
I feel like I know what reality is, and I recognize it. This studio, you sitting there, this coffee cup. But at the same time, I kind of know that it's all fake. It's all this intricate veil that hides what's really there.
But you don't know what's behind the veil?
I got a glimpse with Dr. Allen and Barbara Sayers. They performed a ritual just before Ezra got me out of there. And
Can
I
you
don't
get
know,
up here? You better
they
not
dosed
get
me
up
with
here.
something. There was a city on a plane.
Good.
An old city?
Yeah, I don't know. And the creatures were there again, moving around in the streets, but again, I couldn't quite make sense of them. And there was something else, something enormous, behind the city, kind of towering over it.
Come on.
Structure?
No, a thing. Again, I can't describe it, but it was alive and powerful, and it just
Yeah, fuck you.
hated. It had hate coming off it in waves, like it just exuded hate.
Do you think it was some kind of flashback? Al-Hazred claimed in the Necronomicon that he had found an underground city in the desert, that there were beings there that predated
I think it
us.
was that, but I don't think it was in the past. I think it's there. I think it's what's really there. It's like the reality we see and experience is a projection we're given to cover real reality, which is that place and those creatures and that thing. That's what I saw. I'm gonna call the men in white coats.
I think they're just gonna keep
You
respawning.
should talk to someone. Regardless of what this was, what you saw, real or not.
Where can I go?
And maybe it was drug-induced. From a fungus that was in that cavern or something.
And what comes of me repeating all this to a shrink?
I don't know.
Then maybe we can ask Charles Dexter Ward or Dr. Willett. They lock you up.
But you're not there.
That may just be wishful thinking.
Well, you can function in the world.
Well, because I have to, because I have to know what this is, the truth of it.
Then we'll find it.
Yeah. I need to sleep.
Kennedy went home. Ezra went with her because he doesn't have anywhere to stay here. And I was glad she wasn't going to be on her own.
I was worried about Kennedy. I don't know what really happened in those tunnels or in the room with Dr. Allen and Barbara Sayers. I trust that Kennedy believes she saw those things. But I'm mindful of what Eleanor Peck said about the power of belief. This Ipkuaya stuff is like a religion for these people. And plenty of religions involve visions or hallucinations, even drug taking. Kennedy is smart and level-headed, but she clearly experienced something that shook her sanity in some way. To be honest, at this point, my concern was more for her well-being than for the truth or otherwise of what she saw. But there was nothing I could do about any of this. Melody Cartwright was gone. We had no more leads to follow up. The story had run aground. After everything we discovered, the truth about Lucy Hawthorne's murder, the story of Ipkuaya, the ongoing existence of a conspiracy, we hadn't really solved anything. We'd exposed the top layer of a story, but I knew there was a lot more under there, and we had no real way to get at it. And we knew now that there were powerful forces ranged against us. We'd been useful to them for a while, but now they were going to do everything they could to stop us going further. I set myself the task of editing this last episode together and trying, somehow, to find a way to end this story.
Can I help you? My name's Matthew Hayward. I'd like to see the warden, please.
As I was putting this episode together, it occurred to me that there might be one question that I could finally get an answer to. I wanted to know what happened to Charles Dexter Ward. This whole thing started with him vanishing from a locked cell in an asylum in Rhode Island. Dr. Willett was the last person to see him. And given everything Willett had been through, I thought he might now have some answers as to what really happened to his patient. So I went back to Broadmoor, and I spoke to the warden. He was reluctant, to say the least, to let me see Willett. So I played in the recording I'd made at our last meeting. Hello, Dr. Willett. I'm Matthew. We're alone here. The warden's not first. I want to know what happened to Charles Dexter.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yes, he disappeared from his cell.
No. He's gone long before that. I didn't realize. It's stupid of me. Couldn't see it. The man in that cell wasn't Charles.
I don't understand. Who was it?
It was him. It.
Joseph Kerwin?
No. There's no Kerwin either. Not for a long time. Ipkuaya. They're all Ipkuaya, moving between bodies. He called me, Charles. There's a recording. I made recording.
Yes, I have some of them.
He sent me a letter, and then I called him.
I've read the letter. The one where he said if you see Dr. Allen, you must kill him and dissolve his body in acid. Dr. Allen is dead.
No.
Yes, he was shot dead in Providence.
Dead, you say? No, on a slab, maybe. For now, not dead.
So this phone call, after the letter.
Last time I spoke to Charles.
You had him committed. You were his doctor. On the night he disappeared, you were in his room.
And that's when I understood. That wasn't him. That's why I did it.
Damn it.
What?
Because I'd seen the experiments. I'd seen what was in those pits.
You're talking about what was under the trailer park. For clarity, Dr. Willett is nodding.
Who's there?
No one. I'm recording the conversation.
Oh, yeah. I saw
God damn it.
face of God.
I saw something.
That's gonna be annoying.
I saw demons or angels. I think they're the same.
Dr. Willett. Dr. Willett, what happened in the room with Charles Dexter Ward that night?
It wasn't him. It hadn't been him for a long time. The night of the phone call, that was him, and then after that, Charles stopped
fuck wasn't
existing.
Ipkuaya.
It took over.
He told you this? Dr. Willett is nodding again.
Nodding.
And what did you do when he told you?
Same as when it had Lucy Hawthorne.
You stabbed him.
Stab. And it all turned to dust.
The dust. They said there was a lot of dust in the cell.
Ashes to ashes.
Are you saying he actually turned to dust?
A vessel without life, decomposed, held together. When it leaves, all that remains is dust.
You stabbed him and he turned to dust. So they thought he vanished. But Lucy Hawthorne didn't turn to dust. There was a post-mortem on her body. Dr. Willett, Lucy Hawthorne did not turn to dust. They had her body.
A body, but whose body?
And I poured boiling water over my head.
You're saying the body wasn't hers or the...
God fucking damn it. I need to get good distance before I use these, but I can't.
This room, this place, this life, it's all just an illusion. Because we can't see what's really there, or we'll...
Well, what?
We'll go insane.
I threw up on the pavement as soon as I got outside. I didn't believe what I'd heard. I couldn't believe it, or I wouldn't. But I knew it fitted with what Kennedy had told me, and what Dr. Allen and Barbara Sayers and Godfrey Tillinghast and whoever else believed.
That should be decent enough distance.
This version of a world that's completely alien to everything that I can touch, taste, and hear. And of course, in religion, these people have an explanation for why I can't see the world as they do. Because I'm not woke or enlightened. Because I don't have faith. And so I can't disprove this any more than I can really prove it. I called Kennedy, but she didn't pick up. So I got into a cab and went to her. She didn't answer the door. I had a key because she'd had me watering her plants while she was in America, so I let myself in. Kennedy wasn't there. Neither was Ezra. I don't even know if they went back there when they left the studio. There was no luggage, no sign. The last few days' post was still on the door.
Wait, Phantom? Ah, shit.
I don't know.
Okay.
Where Kennedy is.
God damn it,
This story's over now. I don't know what happens to Red Hook or to the podcast now. I'm just going to put this out there and see what happens. I'm Matthew Hayward, and this was The Mystery Machine.
I don't have enough food stuff to deal with this.
Hi, you're through to the offices of the Mystery Machine podcast. We're taking a break for the moment, but we'll be checking messages, so please speak after.
Hey, it's me. Sorry to take off without, weird times. Anyway, Ezra and I are back. I know, right? But we tracked down Melody Cardinal. She came with my stairs. Some other guys all come with bandages.
Come on.
We've been watching this for a couple of days, and they've looked good by their hotel. This morning, they headed out to pick up with all the luggage and local stuff. I think they're headed up to Mosul, to the ruins of Nineveh. We're gonna go out after them, but I need you to get me some recording equipment couriered out to Mosul because my machine will be able to go with my ink.
Fuck. Ah, my timing.
Get this. I'm running out to meet a guy. Ezra wants to work with you. Okay? Call me back. I'll be back in an hour.
Mr. Haywood, it's Ezra Wheaton. Delete this message. You lost.
God damn it, they respawned.
In H.P. Lovecraft's The Case of Charles Dexter Ward, adapted by Julian Simpson, Matthew Hayward was played by Barnaby Kay. Kennedy Fisher, Jana Carpenter.
I'm gonna have to
Charles
mark this on my
Dexter
map
Ward,
and come back
Samuel
to it
Barnard.
later.
Young Charles Dexter Ward, Harry Kay. Dr. Willett, Mark Basil. George Shepley, Adam Godley. Claire Rushmore, Madeline Potter. Contact and Warden, Ben Crow. Alice and Waitress, Samantha Dakin. Barbara Sayers, Penny Downey. Tyler Green, Alex Lanapekin. Sylvester Birtwistle and Tregore, Nathan Osgood. Ezra Whedon, Alan Armstrong. Eleanor Peck, Nicola Walker. Akuma and Nurse, Sherelle State. Amelia Fenner, Susan Jameson. Dr. Lyman, Stephen McIntosh. Lucy Hawthorne, Phoebe Fox. And Godfrey Tillinghast, Richard Corderoy. Sound design was by David Thomas. The director was Julian Simpson. The Case of Charles Dexter Ward was produced by Karen Rose and was a Sweet Talk production for BBC Radio 4.
Hello, it's me, May Martin. I hope
hope you enjoyed the podcast you just listened to. Can I recommend another podcast that you might enjoy? It's called Grown Up Land, and it's a podcast for people who find the adult world a bit much. Every week, me, Bishop K. Alley, and Ned Sedgwick, and tons of other guests try to get our heads around stuff that confuses us, like sex. Very confused by sex, fear, food, and friendship. I'm running out of time for this ad. Ned, how would you sum up the podcast?
I'd say it's like a guidebook for people who don't really know where they're going.
Great, thanks, Ned. That's Grown Up Land, and you can find it on BBC Sounds.
This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
Reactivating your feed. This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
Henry Akeley disappeared from his home on the edge of Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk somewhere around the end of June 2019.
They come every night now. I've buried 5 dogs so far, and I've made more recordings. I've also picked them up on my radio set. The police don't believe me, then please, I just need you to get in touch.
What we uncovered, what we're still uncovering, is a mystery that has sent us deep into England's past. To an area steeped in witchcraft, the occult, secret government operations,
Now we have multiple sites on 5 lights with a similar shape and orbit.
and something that might indeed be altogether otherworldly. This is The Whisperer in Darkness.
Coming soon on BBC Sounds.
Surgeons keep our hearts beating. They do the amazing. Help save lives. And so can you. Your CSL plasma donation can help create 24 critical life-saving medicines that can give Grandpa the chance for his heart to swell when he meets his new grandson. Or give a bride the chance for her heart to skip a beat on her wedding day. Every plasma donation helps more than you know. Do the amazing. Help save lives. Donate today at your local CSL Plasma Center and be rewarded for your generosity.
Of course.
This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hi, you're through to the offices of the Mystery Machine podcast. We're taking a break for the moment, but we'll be checking messages, so please speak after the tone.
Hey, it's me. Sorry to take off without, weird times. Anyway, Ezra and I are in Baghdad. I know, right? But we tracked down Melody Cartwright. She's here with Barb Sayers and some other guys who's all covered in bandages. We've been watching them for a couple of days, and they've mostly stayed inside their hotel. This morning, they headed out in a pickup with all their luggage and a local guide. We think they're headed up to Mosul, to the ruins of Nineveh. We're gonna go out after them, but I need you to get me some recording equipment couriered out to Mosul because my machine just gave up the ghost, and I can't find anything reliable here. Call me back on this number as soon as you get this. I'm running out to meet a guide. Ezra wants a word with you. Okay? Call me back. I'll be back in an hour.
Mr. Haywood, it's Ezra Wheaton. Delete this message. You lost.
That was the message I received about a month after my friend and fellow presenter Kennedy Fisher disappeared, following the events of the case of Charles Dexter Ward. As the end of the message suggests, Kennedy was not back an hour later. I called and her phone was dead, and it stayed that way. I contacted every hospital and hotel in Baghdad looking for her. I got nowhere. I even called a few contacts I had in the army, and they in turn got in touch with people they knew in Iraq. But there was no trace of Kennedy. Some of them expressed doubts that she had ever even been in Iraq. But whether she had or not, there was no trace of her there now. I then tried to contact Godfrey Tillinghast, the man I believed would have some idea of where Kennedy was or what might have happened to her. But Sir Godfrey, too, had vanished, and my calls and emails went unanswered. 2 weeks later, the British press reported that Sir Godfrey Tillinghast had died of a stroke whilst on a business trip in Cairo.
Huh.
In Kennedy's absence, I put the podcast on hold. I didn't think I could make this show on my own, and truthfully, I didn't want to.
Aw, that's really sweet. Oh, come on, don't make that face. You can't let people think I just vanished into thin air.
It's a mystery show.
Sure, but I'm right here. What were you gonna do, just spin it out and not let me talk for half the season?
It's just a little showmanship.
I'm not dead.
Okay, fine. So, do you want to tell them what happened?
It's kind of the least dynamic resolution to the story.
I think we want to know.
Okay. Well, I left the hotel to go to meet this guide, like I said on the message, and, hit by a kid on a scooter.
This is a scooter as in a motorbike?
Yeah, not like a little kid going along the sidewalk. I stepped out into the street, and I guess I wasn't paying attention, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up in hospital.
And you were quite badly hurt.
Oh yeah, I was out cold for 10 days. I fractured my skull, leg, my wrist, dislocated my shoulder. So yeah, hit by a bike. 2 weeks in hospital, and by the time I got back to the hotel, Ezra and Barbara Sayers and Melody Cartwright and the guy with the bandages, all gone. So I headed up to Mosul, which is where we thought they were all going. But no. No sign of them in Mosul, and the trail was stone cold, so...
So that was that. And do you have any theories?
I really don't. I mean, that whole time was pretty crazy. And wherever the truth lies, whether those guys were really into something occult or they just believed they were, I'd like to think we'll get to the bottom of it all one day. You know, maybe one of them will resurface or we'll get a lead, and then maybe we can find out how that story ends. But hey, I have a metal pin in my leg, so at least I have a souvenir.
And now, we're back.
On to the next one.
And the next one is looking pretty weird.
I've been getting these strange messages from a guy called Henry Akeley.
If you listen to the case of Charles Dexter Ward, you'll remember Dr. Eleanor Peck, who we talked to during that story because she's a historian and an expert in witchcraft and folklore. A few weeks after Kennedy got back to England, we got this voicemail.
It's Eleanor Peck. Can you give me a call? It's about an old student of mine who claims to have fallen foul of some kind of... I'm not sure what he thought it was. I think this one might be up your street.
So we got Eleanor on the phone, and she said...
A few years ago, I was teaching a course on folklore at Birkbeck, mostly mature students. Henry Akeley was on the course. I have a vague memory of him from then as quite an odd man, mid-60s, quite outspoken, but with some weird ideas. He didn't really come at things from an academic viewpoint. He was more prone to... It's like he was on the course because he thought that these stories of wild men and mermaids and fairies were actually real. You get people like this occasionally, and you have to be polite and indulge the questions and so on. But anyway, one day he didn't come in, and that was that. Never saw him again. Then, about 3 or 4 months ago, I got this letter from him out of the blue.
Eleanor sent us a copy of the letter. It's neatly written in fountain pen, and the letterhead shows an address near the town of Rendlesham in Suffolk. It's dated March 17th, 2019, and the letter reads,
Dear Professor Peck, my name is Henry Akeley, and you may remember me as a student on a folklore course you taught at Birkbeck in 2012. If you do remember me, I doubt I left a very favourable impression. If that is the case, you will not have been the first to form such an opinion of me. But I hope you will take me more seriously now. Since leaving Birkbeck, I have moved back to Suffolk, to Rendlesham Forest, where I grew up. You may recall that my interest in folklore stemmed from the stories I heard in this area in my youth, and specifically the events I witnessed near my home on the 26th of December 1980. I never did believe what they said about that, not the official version nor the wild conspiracy theories. Of course, no one was going to take the word as gently, but I know what I saw. And I'm writing to you now because they're back and I can prove it, and I want to prove it to you. They come to my house at night, and lately they've been trying to get in, but my dogs have seen them off thus far. I came home later than usual last night because I spent the evening with a friend, and when I got home, one of the Alsatians was dead in the front garden and they'd taken his head. But now I have proof because I have a security camera in the porch which I fitted quite recently. The image is too dark to make anything out, but it recorded the sound they make, and I have the recording for you by way of proof that what I've been saying all along is true. I'd like you to come up here to my house to witness these phenomena and to help me to investigate further. I would be very glad of your expertise in this field, despite our differences at Birkbeck, and I'm sure it would be of academic interest to you, and perhaps there might be a book or some such in it. And then he gives his contact details and signs off with kind regards, Henry Akeley.
Honestly, I didn't give it that much thought. I read the letter, noted that Henry was no less crazy than I remembered him being.
persistent. He got hold of Eleanor's mobile number, and he started leaving messages. This one was left on the 12th of April.
Miss Peck, it's Henry Akeley. I'm hoping you got my letter. I imagine you think I'm quite mad, but you mustn't call me. You must see what's going on here. My number is...
Then, on the 2nd of May...
It's Henry Akeley again. They come every night now. I've buried 5 dogs so far, and I've made more recordings. I've also picked them up on my radio set. The police don't believe me. Please, I just need you to get in touch. My number is...
And then, 2 weeks later...
That was last night. I think the dogs took a chunk out of it. There was blood everywhere this morning, leading out to the road. I thought it was one of them, but then I saw my neighbour at lunchtime, and he was limping, and the dogs wouldn't go near him. And that makes me think it can't just be me. I don't think I can trust anyone anymore. Enemies on all sides. The radio broadcasts are getting more frequent. Look, it's Henry Akeley, please. My number is...
That last message I just thought was... Well, it crossed my mind to call social services. More than crossed my mind, actually, but I didn't want to... it seemed like it would be rude to presume. Anyway, I remembered him talking about his local vicar when he was on my course. This guy, who he always said was an expert in the folklore of the area, and Henry spoke about him like they were friends. So I tracked the vicar down, a man called Wilmarth, and spoke to him on the phone. I told him I'd been getting these messages from Henry, and he said Henry had seemed agitated of late, and he'd call in on him, make sure he was okay. So I left it at that.
You weren't tempted to check this stuff out for yourself?
No. Well, actually, I did talk to a couple of people about whether I should sort of humour him, because I didn't think he was dangerous. Or at least I didn't get the sense that he meant me any harm. And I didn't want to just turn a blind eye if he was, having difficulties. But these colleagues of mine were pretty certain that indulging any of this was the wrong course of action.
After Eleanor spoke to the local vicar, the messages from Henry Akeley stopped for several months. Then she got this one, on the 9th of September.
Miss Peck, it's Henry Akeley here. I'm so sorry to have been pestering you these past few months. I do hope I didn't cause you any alarm. I'm afraid I was having some kind of mental health episode, but all is quite well now. As I say, I hope I didn't cause you any distress. Please, disregard whatever it was I was saying, and I'm very sorry to have been any trouble.
I got a call from the police about 3 days after that last message. Henry had a son. They were estranged, and the son lives in Austria. But the son's wife passed away, and he had called Henry to let him know and hadn't been able to track him down. So he called the police and asked them to go round there.
According to the police report, the Akeley house looked like it hadn't been occupied for a couple of months. They found 2 of Henry Akeley's dogs running wild in the forest nearby, and the graves of several more in his back garden. They checked Henry's phone records, and that's how they came to call Eleanor Peck. To this date, there's been no sign of Henry Akeley, and the official investigation into his disappearance seems to be firmly on the back burner.
So he disappeared before he left you that last message?
Apparently so.
Sorry, jumping back to that first letter. What happened on the 26th of December 1980?
God damn it.
This thing that Akeley claims to have witnessed?
That's the Rendlesham incident, isn't it?
The what?
The Rendlesham incident. It's like the British Roswell, a UFO sighting.
Okay. Is this an abductee story?
For the record, I don't think Henry Akeley is kidnapped by Martians. Look, he was a weird guy with some eccentric views of the world, and I think he may have had some kind of psychotic episode and just wandered off. But the police seem to have lost interest in him, and I didn't feel good just ignoring the situation, so I called you two. I figured the stuff Henry was into would interest you, and I thought if you wanted to dig into this a little bit, you might at least find out what happened to him. But if it's not your thing, I understand.
I don't know what our thing is anymore.
After the call with Eleanor, Kennedy and I went to the cafe across the road from the studio. This had long been our go-to place for talking through matters related to the show and the stories we're covering. We've got into the habit of recording those conversations because, well, we pretty much record everything.
I mean, before last year, we were just into true crime stuff, and that was fine. But can we go back to that after what happened with the whole Charles Dexter Ward thing?
I know what you mean. But do we really want to go the other way with the mystery podcast? But there's also the problem that because of what we got into last time, we're in danger of seeing every unsolved mystery as something spooky.
Right. And whether this is that or not, does it even have legs?
One of the pitfalls of making a podcast like this is that we work on a series basis. With any possible story, we have to make a judgment call at the start about whether we're going to dig up enough interesting material to provide a story that can run across multiple episodes. If a story peters out after a few days or even a few weeks, that's time and money we've spent without having anything we can use.
We don't want to run with this only to find Henry Akeley wandering around the forest after a couple of weeks with his undies on his head and a syringe in his arm.
At least that would mean we know what happened to him. And I don't know that finding him is necessarily the end of it, if there's a good story to be told about what happened.
Okay, but we don't have any indication either way yet. And we come back to the problem of those messages. Because if they're anything other than the rantings of a crazy person, then we're back into woo-woo territory again.
I don't want to be the breadhead, but the woo-woo paid a lot of bills last year.
Says the half of the team who wasn't abducted and fed hallucinogenic drugs by homicidal cult members.
Yeah, I suspect that was a one-off.
It only needs to happen once for it to become a permanent factor in decision-making. Is this it?
Am I navigating? I thought you were following the sat-nav.
I was, but there's no signal.
There, that could be it there.
In the end, we decided to look into what happened to Henry Akeley. I don't think either of us really felt there was a story there, but an old man had gone missing, and finding him would at least be for the good. And we felt like we owed Eleanor Peck for her help last season. And even though we didn't think this would turn into anything, we recorded it just in case.
I'm standing in Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk. Looking due west from this spot, the forest extends for miles. If I turned southeast and walked in a straight line, I'd hit the Suffolk coast. You can smell the sea breeze here, and it mingles with the thicker, heavier air from the forest. In front of me, there's a single-lane road that I'd be willing to bet follows a track that's been here for hundreds of years. And on the other side of the road is a small, very old cottage with a tiled roof. It's pretty, but the garden that surrounds it is already overgrown, and the house has the air of abandonment. It is, or was, the Henry Akeley house.
Shall we go in?
Yeah, you should explain how come I have the key, or people might think we're breaking into the place.
Okay, this isn't a show, but if it was, I can do that in the narration.
Not on location. This is reportage. Into the mic or it didn't happen.
Seriously?
Yep.
All right, so Henry Akeley's son, the one who reported him missing, lived in Austria. We tracked him down, I spoke to him on the phone and explained who we are, what we do. I told him we might be interested in looking into his dad's disappearance, but we'd like to have a sniff around first, and so he sent me a key to the place.
See? That wasn't terrible. It doesn't need a soundproof room and music behind it, does it?
I distrust your low-tech ways.
So what do we think about this house? 1500s?
I'm not an expert, but that's probably a good guess.
It was a very good guess. According to the parish records, the house was built in 1522.
That's the gate. The paint is peeling pretty badly and the hinges sound like they could use some oil.
You really do narrate everything, don't you?
That's why I'm so much fun to edit. Okay, this is interesting. Remember one of those messages Akeley said he had a camera installed? I think he means this.
That's one of those Wi-Fi doorbells.
That's right. It detects movement and sends a video and audio to a smartphone.
Is it still working?
You mean to someone watching us right now? I don't know. I imagine if Henry still has his phone on him, the police would have used it to trace him.
Yeah, this lock could use some oil too.
This is cute.
This is about 3 months' worth of junk mail.
Anything useful?
I'll have a proper look before we go.
Okay, so we've walked into a... Well, it's not really a hallway. The place opens out onto the right into a living room. And to the left into a kitchen with a stone floor. There's a wall ahead of us.
There probably would have been doors here back in the day.
Keep going.
What?
Carry on, say.
Oh, ahead of us, on the other side of the wall is the chimney, so there's probably fireplaces. There are fireplaces in each of these rooms feeding into the main chimney, so there would have been doors here to keep the heat in.
Living room first?
Yep.
That's where I'm going.
Okay, this is kind of what you'd expect. The carpet seems pretty old and worn, and there are dog hairs all over it.
Not bothered with that.
The sofa has a blanket on it. It's presumably for the dogs. An old TV, no kind of media hardware. Bookshelves. History, folklore.
Yeah, I'm going to get some photos of the books. Eleanor Peck might be able to glean something from what he's been reading.
There's some more in a pile down there at the end of the sofa.
Yeah.
The smell in here is...
Doggy.
Yeah, wet dog. Stale, wet dog. And cigarettes. I see 3 ashtrays in this room alone, and they're all full of roll-up butts. Dust and ash and dog hair everywhere. Wow, this is, I'm gonna go with traditional, in as much as I'm a child of the late 20th century and I have no idea how you prepare a meal in this place. Okay, there's a smell. It's quite unlike... Oh, that's what it is. There are some bowls of dog food over here by the back door, and this is what dog food smells like when it's... Oh, when it's been sitting around for, well, longer than it should. The kitchen is horrible. Did you hear that?
Hear what?
Come here.
What?
Listen.
What am I supposed to be hearing?
A voice from upstairs. It sounded like a kid.
Okay. The stairs are through here. Oh, what's that smell? Jesus. Hello? Hello, is anyone up there? Stay behind me.
Seriously? This is my gig. Is someone there? I don't think you're supposed to be here. This is the bedroom. It's...
I can't tell if it's been searched or if it's been burgled. It was just incredibly untidy.
Judging by the rest of the house, I'm going with self-inflicted. What is interesting, though, is that.
The suitcase.
Assuming a guy like Henry Akeley doesn't have a beautiful set of matching luggage, that would likely be his only suitcase. And it's here.
So, he didn't pack. Which means he wasn't planning on going anywhere.
Or he left in such a rush that he didn't have a chance. Maybe the Martians were in a hurry. Maybe UFOs charge waiting time. That's not a kid. It's a radio.
Shortwave. Henry's a radio ham. So, we were hearing interference. If there are kids out there somewhere on walkie-talkies or whatever,
Why does anyone bother when there's Skype?
why do people use fountain pens or typewriters or collect vinyl?
Well, good questions. Okay, 1 second. We're in the second bedroom, which Henry Akeley has turned into, I guess you'd call it an office. The desk is mostly taken up with a shortwave radio setup, which, as you can hear, has been left on. The walls are covered with photographs and maps and newspaper clippings. It looks obsessive, but I'm not sure what the overall theme is yet. There are scraps of paper and notebooks scattered across the desk, and...
It's all right, it's all right. It's just kids on walkie-talkies.
Well, they're scaring the shit out of me. If they're coming through this frequency, does that mean we can talk back to them?
Yeah, I guess so.
This button?
Something to do with technical.
In the 21st century, I'm technical.
This is the ghost of Henry Akeley.
Is that in good taste?
Okay, probably not.
Although I suppose that's how urban myths are born. Those kids are going to tell their mates they're out playing and...
What is it?
It's a piece on the Rendlesham incident.
Fine, I'll do the storytelling. Matthew is standing over by the far wall, looking at the clippings Henry Akeley has pinned up. He appears to be fixed on a particular story that looks like it's from a local paper. The headline is, "Local people witness alien landing," and there's a photograph of 5 people of various ages. One of them is a young Henry Akeley who looks... Well, we know he was using drugs then, and I guess he looks like someone who's using a lot of drugs.
That's not who I'm looking at.
I don't know who that is.
You never met her. That's Amelia Fenner.
As in?
As in a member of Joseph Curwen's witch coven in the New Forest in the 60s.
The next 2 minutes of audio we recorded consist almost entirely of Kennedy Fisher swearing. When she eventually had to pause for breath, we went outside to get some air.
How is this possible?
I don't know. Maybe it's just a wild coincidence.
No.
It actually could be. Henry Akeley was into folklore and whatever else.
We know Amelia Fenner left the New Forest Coven and went to Winchester, but I never asked her what she did after that. If this area is so steeped in all the stuff she was interested in, it's not out of the question that she came up here and crossed paths with Henry Akeley. And it has nothing to do with the whole Charles Dexter Ward thing.
If you haven't listened to the last series, some of this may seem confusing, so let me pause for a quick refresher. During our investigation of the case of Charles Dexter Ward, Eleanor Peck introduced me to Amelia Fenner, who was by then an old lady in a nursing home in Barnet. In her youth, Amelia had been a member of a witch coven in the New Forest run by a man called Joseph Kerwin. Kerwin claimed to be the reincarnation of an ancient Mesopotamian sorcerer called Ipku Aya. Amelia Fenner fell pregnant by Kerwin, and the modern-day members of the Ipku Aya cult believe that Amelia's granddaughter, a woman called Melody Cartwright, is the new vessel for Ipku Aya's spirit. It was Melody Cartwright and some other members of that cult that Kennedy had pursued to Iraq when she had her scooter accident and lost the trail.
That's a good summing up. Although it glosses over the part where those same cult members drugged me and tried to kill me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be brief so I can cut back to your meltdown in the street.
That was not a meltdown.
Are you well? You seem a bit distracted.
I apologize. I keep getting lost in my thoughts, thinking about how I can return home. With your power over time, if I were able to learn that kind of control, I might be one step closer to my era.
I see. The secret is to think of it like drawing out the object's memory. You ask the object where it was, how it arrived where it is now, and then you coax it back to that original moment in time.
The object's memory.
I'm sure it will become almost like second nature, and you will be able to find your way home. But Zelda, there is more on your mind than just that.
Huh?
You, of course, do want to get back to your time. But you also desperately want to help us out in this era. Am I close to the truth?
How did you know?
We rewound time.
I do not believe it is possible to keep anything secret.
We had this
from
conversation
Sonia.
already.
Oh, your concern is very sweet, Zelda. But listen, you can focus your attention on returning home. After all, you possess more than power over time. You have a sacred power that can dispel evil. Both of these powers will help you protect your own era.
Queen Sonia!
And of course, you must make it home safe to put Link's mind at ease.
Link? That is not a name I have heard.
He is a royal knight. He had been originally appointed for my protection. But later, he became a hero by saving both me and Hyrule from a great evil.
Oh, a hero is he?
He is so very dedicated, and he refuses to back down from any challenge. He is very strong. And his heart is good and true.
Ah, I can see that you have absolute faith in him. Hearing you speak so highly of Link, I find myself wanting to meet him as well.
Indeed. I would also like to meet him. He must be quite the brave, courageous knight. What a picture Zelda paints of him.
When do we believe in coincidences?
I'm just saying.
We should be running away from this thing as fast as we can.
If that's what you want to do.
Meaning you don't?
We're just here to see if this thing has legs.
Oh, it's got legs. It's got
fucking tentacles.
Two people crossed paths nearly 40 years ago. For all we know, they only met when that photo was being taken.
But you want to find out?
I'm not going to pretend I'm not interested.
We're going back down this road again.
It's not the same road. It probably doesn't lead to the same place.
It all leads to the same place.
Fine. Then we won't... Kennedy? Kennedy, you okay?
Why do I have that mark?
Take deep breaths. I've got some water in the car.
I think that's as much as we need of that. I had a panic attack. Let's not make a big deal of it. I went through some stuff last year, and then I wound up in an Iraqi hospital, and I guess a lot of it came flooding back when this Henry Akeley business seemed to connect up to all of that.
I think anyone would have had the same reaction.
Well, the point is you were right. We don't know what the connection between Akeley and Amelia Fenner is yet, but it is interesting, and it's exactly the kind of thing we dig into.
You did say that at the time.
Yeah, I did. Once I'd caught my breath and had some water. It was bright sunshine, the Suffolk countryside. It all kind of seemed to recede. Let's go back inside.
You sure?
If we're gonna do this, let's do it right.
And so we went back. We stepped out of the bright sunshine and into the shadows of the Akeley house. I'm not going to pretend that since then there haven't been a lot of times where I wished we hadn't. We could have just got in the car and driven back to London and looked around for a different story. But that's not what happened. What we uncovered, what we're still uncovering, we don't know how this will turn out, is a mystery that has sent us deep into England's past, to an area steeped in witchcraft, the occult, secret government operations, and something that might indeed be altogether otherworldly. I'm Matthew Hayward.
And I'm Kennedy Fisher.
And this is The Whisperer in Darkness.
This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Sunday the 5th of May, 2019. It's about 8 o'clock, well, actually, 8:07 in the evening. Just getting dark. Well, they won't be coming for a while yet, if they come at all tonight. I won't know until I hear the dogs. They can smell them or sense them, and they start growling and barking. I went back to the police today, and once again they took down all the details and said they'd look into it, but they're human with me. They think I'm soft in the head. They won't do anything. So I'm leaving this account of my own, and I'm doing it all on an old tape machine because nothing digital seems to survive proximity to my visitors. The only one I trust now is Wilmarth. All the others either think I'm mad or they know I'm not because they've been co-opted by these things. Walter Brown watches me every time I leave the house. I think he's been trying to get in at night with the others. And the broadcast is back. It switches frequency every few days, so someone must be manipulating it. I tried to play it to Wilmarth, but it wasn't broadcasting when he came round. I'm going to record it if it comes on again. I told the police about that as well, and they said they'd look into it, meaning that they'll do nothing. I suppose I should count myself lucky they haven't sent the men in white coats around. I'm going to feed the dogs and then secure the house for the night. This is Henry Akeley, May the 5th. Over and out.
If you're just joining us, I recommend you go back to episode 1 of this series and start at the beginning. I'm not going to promise it'll all make sense, but it might at least give you some context for what you just heard and what comes next. At the end of the last episode, Kennedy Fisher and I went back into Henry Akeley's house. Despite our misgivings about the circumstances of his disappearance and his apparent connection to Amelia Fenner, who was involved with the case of Charles Dexter Ward, which we covered in our last series, we decided to look into the Henry Akeley case in more detail. While I took photographs of everything pinned to the walls in Akeley's spare room, Kennedy was going through his desk.
Oh, wow.
What's that? Oh, wow. There were 16 small plastic audio tapes, kind you used to use in a dictaphone or an old answering machine. The tapes weren't dated. Instead, they were simply numbered 1 to 16. Whatever device Henry Akeley used to record these tapes wasn't there. What you heard at the start of this episode was the first recording on the first of those tapes. This is the second recording.
I've just been woken up with the dogs, which means They're on their way. It's 2:17 in the morning, 5th of... no, the 6th of May. They're coming later than usual. Well, but there's a decent moon tonight, and the sky was clear earlier, but now it's clouded over, and... That's downstairs. I'm up in the spare bedroom. It's too dark to see anything. I put a proximity lamp out there last week, but they smashed it the first time they came on. There's several of them. They're all around the house. Shit. They've got one of the dogs.
I'm Matthew Hayward, and this is The Whisperer in Darkness.
Hello?
Father Wilmarth.
No, not Catholic. Technically it's Lenten, but just call me Albert, a bit.
Albert Wilmarth is the vicar at the Church of the Holy Cross, which stands about 100 yards down the road from Henry Akeley's house. It's an ancient church with a partially thatched roof, surrounded by a well-kept graveyard. The vicarage sits to the side of the graveyard, across an old stone wall. When Wilmarth opens the door, I'm a little taken aback because I was expecting an older man.
Yes, I'm too young to be an Albert, apparently. I'm named after my grandfather, who was born slap bang in the middle of peak Albert popularity. Sugar?
No, thank you. He's in his 40s, fit and healthy looking. He lives alone in this old house, and there's a sense here of an ordered mind, that everything is in its place. There's no clutter or mess. The room we're in is ostensibly the living room, but it has more of the feel of a library. 3 of the walls are lined floor to ceiling with bookshelves. The only thing that stands out, both as an item that doesn't belong in a library and something I wasn't expecting to see in a vicarage, is a 50-inch state-of-the-art television with a set of high-end home cinema speakers arranged around the room.
I'm a film and box set junkie, I'm afraid. It's my only real vice, although I suppose it all feeds in. You'd be surprised how many sermons you can get out of 8 seasons of Game of Thrones.
Albert Wilmarth has known Henry Akeley for the best part of 10 years. In his recordings, Akeley refers to Wilmarth as the only one I trust.
Henry was one of the first people I met when I moved here. I was out walking in the forest, trying to get a feel for the geography. Henry was out there with those bloody dogs of his. It's quite a disturbing experience the first time. This strange-looking character like Merlin or Gandalf or something, emerging from the trees, all these massive dogs roaming free. 2 of them came bounding up to me and nearly knocked me right over. I'm not a dog person, really.
Okay.
Big old things, Alsatians. And whatever claims Henry might have made about being able to control them, those dogs did whatever they wanted.
Wilmarth told me that Henry was out in the forest most days.
Conducting research, he said, when we first met, which I later came to understand as a kind of field investigation into the local folklore. And I suppose that's what connected us, because Henry certainly wasn't a Christian. I don't know that he ever set foot in the church outside the couple of times he might have poked his head around the door looking for me.
And you're interested in folklore too?
Yeah, well, I always have been. Myths and legends, you know. The Roger Lansdowne Green books when I was a kid, and then Robert Graves, and then a kind of more localised interest in the British end of things. And then I moved here, and the local folk tales are so rich.
Really? I mean, this area specifically?
Oh, yeah. Just this few square miles is amazing once you start digging into it. Ghosts and witchcraft and mythical creatures. I think it's all baked into the history of the place and how long it's been populated. And then you have this dense, spooky forest so near to the coast, so you get this mix of rural and maritime stories that go back nearly 2,000 years.
Did Henry ever mention a woman called Amelia Fenner?
The witch? Yes. He talked about her quite a lot when I first knew him. She wasn't still here by then. I think she ended up in a home. She must be quite old by now.
She actually died last year.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Did Henry say what she was doing up here?
Well, I think it was the folklore that brought her here too. The occult side of it. This area is a bit of a mecca for people like that. And as I understand it, Miss Fenner had come up from the New Forest when the group she belonged to there had broken up and she was presumably looking for pastures new. I think she was something of a local curiosity when Henry was a boy, and then, well, as he tells it at least, he became interested in all this pagan stuff as a teenager. And at some point he fell in with Amelia Fenner and they started doing rituals and what have you.
So Henry was into witchcraft and the occult?
Well, I think it was a phase, really. I don't really know what he got up to with Amelia and whoever else she gathered around her back then. But I understand there was a lot of drug taking, and I know Henry had his own struggles with that. But by the time I came along, Henry's interest in witchcraft and the like was purely academic. I think that what happened with Amelia and the others in the forest had freaked him out.
Okay. What happened with Amelia Fenner in the forest?
Well, they call it the Rendlesham Forest Incident. Henry and Amelia were there when it happened.
At this point, it's probably worth getting an overview of this Rendlesham Forest incident, so we all know what we're talking about.
In ufology circles, the Rendlesham Forest incident is considered to be the British Roswell. It's one of the most famous, most credible, and longest-lasting UFO encounters we have.
Dean Perry is an American whose parents were stationed on various bases across Europe when he was a kid. He went to high school on those bases, and after graduating, he travelled extensively before settling back here in Suffolk. Dean now makes a living as a ufologist and has written extensively about the Rendlesham incident. I asked if he'd talk to us, but he went one better and offered to give me a guided tour of the area of Rendlesham Forest where the incident supposedly occurred.
So right here, on the other side of this chain-link fence is a runway that was part of RAF Woodbridge. A couple of miles north of here is RAF Bentwaters. Neither base is open any longer, but in 1980, the height of the Cold War, both of these were U.S. Air Force bases, fully manned fighter jets, the whole works.
And you spent some time here in the 80s yourself?
Yeah, I was at high school for a couple of years here at RAF Woodbridge, yeah. I wasn't here in 1980, but my parents knew some of the guys who were. Where we're standing right now, this was the east gate of RAF Woodbridge.
If I were a cave.
They called it the back gate.
There's a hut still there on the other side of that gate.
That's right, yeah, and this is where we start. Christmas Day, 1980. The guy standing watch in that hut is Airman First Class John Burroughs. It's the middle of the night. We're actually tipping over into the early hours of the 26th of December, when Burroughs spots some lights in the forest, over in that direction.
And that is what? That's east?
Yeah, about half a mile due east through the trees. He sees red and blue lights, and he doesn't know what he's looking at. Burroughs calls his boss, Staff Sergeant Bud Steffen. Steffen sees the lights too, and neither of them have seen anything like it before. So, they decide to take a jeep out along the perimeter to see what it is.
Dean walks me along a track that runs parallel to the base perimeter, and then we cross a single-lane public road, and that's where the forest begins again.
They stop the jeep about here and confirm that they're definitely seeing lights out there in amongst the trees. But the jeep can't get there because none of the tracks through the forest are wide enough at this point, and they're not okay with going it alone because this is the military, and so there are standard operating procedures and hierarchy and all that. So they turn around and head back to the base. A bunch of telephone calls are made, and people are consulted all the way up the line, and the prevailing wisdom, there being no flights in or out of either of the bases on the night in question, is that this could be civilian. A light aircraft has come down in the forest. So this guy, Staff Sergeant James Peniston, who's the on-duty flight chief at Woodbridge that night, gets sent down to the east gate to check it all out. Peniston calls a guy called Chandler, who's the overall flight chief for both bases. Chandler, in turn, checks in with two other local bases, Bawdsey and Watton, and with Heathrow Air Traffic Control. No one's heard anything about a light aircraft in trouble, but the radar did pick up a bogey 15 minutes earlier. A blip they couldn't identify. And it was moving across this area, and then they lost track of it right over RAF Woodbridge. So now, 4 of them head out in 2 jeeps. Once again, the jeeps aren't going any further than this road, so they park up and start walking down this track.
Dean leads me along a path that runs through dense trees. The sound in the forest is very different. Those big Suffolk skies are gone instantly. It all feels much more enclosed, claustrophobic.
So, about halfway along this path, the radios start to fail. Say again, Delta 4?
All of the radios?
Yeah. And these things work fine in forests, and for all 4 of them to fail at the same time. In his report, Peniston said they thought the signal was being jammed. 2 of the guys decide to stay behind so they can keep in touch with the airbase. And Peniston and Burroughs, the guy who originally spotted the lights, carry on down here. Up ahead, they see the lights again, much closer now. Peniston describes a kind of intense static charge in the air, and he said that moving forward became difficult, as if they were wading through deep water. He said it felt like they were moving in slow motion. As they get to this point, Peniston reports there was a blinding flash with no sound. They hit the dirt, but after the flash, there's nothing. So they get back up again. Peniston is looking through the trees right here, and he sees that.
The people who manage Rendlesham Forest have not been shy to take advantage of this bit of local folklore. What we're walking along is actually their designated UFO trail. And where Dean is now pointing, there is a small clearing, in the centre of which stands a sculpture of a black triangular craft with curved edges.
So, this sculpture is actually based on drawings Peniston and Burroughs made after the event. It looks pretty innocuous now, but Peniston described it as bristling with lights, and he said the side of the craft was etched with some kind of strange hieroglyphics. Peniston takes a bunch of photographs of this thing, but the lab on the base says there was a fault and they didn't come out.
That all sounds a bit Oliver Stone.
Oh, that's an easy rabbit hole to disappear down. Once you get into the after-action reports being removed from the logs and classified top secret, people changing their accounts following debriefs with mysterious government officials and so on. But that's all after the fact. What's happening here, right now, is Peniston taking pictures, and at a certain point he says something to Burroughs and gets no reply. So he looks back over his shoulder, and what he sees is this blinding white light shining vertically down on Burroughs, and Burroughs is just standing frozen in this light, not moving, completely unresponsive.
Okay.
Then Peniston steps forward towards the craft,
How the
which
fuck
he
am I
said
supposed
was
to get
just
you when you're
hovering
up
a few
there?
inches off the ground, and he reaches out and touches the glyphs on the side of it. When he does that, he feels this flood of information hitting his brain, like he's somehow picking up some kind of signal broadcast.
What kind of information?
Ones and zeros, he says, binary, this incredibly fast stream of it. He freaks out and lets go.
Fucking
then, the craft just rises up through the trees and flies away. Peniston and Burroughs recover themselves and head back to the Jeep to discover a panic going on. Because it turns out they've been in the forest and out of radio contact for far longer than they thought. You might put it down to time flying when you're having fun, but it turned out that both of their watches had lost 45 minutes. Incredible. No, what's incredible is that the UFO came back again 2 nights later.
That second visit saw the UFO witnessed by different US personnel. Chief amongst them, Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt. Holt was with a team of men at the original landing site on the night of the 27th of December. The team found broken branches on the trees surrounding the clearing, consistent with Peniston and Burroughs' eyewitness accounts. Evidence on the ground of some kind of craft having settled there, and alarmingly high radiation counts in the immediate vicinity. Holt himself recorded their findings on his dictaphone. Then, just before 2 o'clock in the morning, one of the team spotted a light in the distance.
We're getting very strange sounds out of the farmers barring our animals. They're very, very active, make a lot of noise. You just saw a light where? Wait, slow down. Where? Right on this position here, straight ahead, in between the tree. There it is again. Watch, straight ahead off my flash right there. So there it is.
They followed the light to the edge of the forest, looking out across a farmer's field. The same field, incidentally, that Henry Akeley's house backs on.
Bastards. Okay, we're looking at the thing. We're probably about 200 to 300 yards away. It looks like an eye winking at you. It's still moving from side to side. And when you put the star scope on it, it sort of has a hollow center, right? Dark sands. Like a pupil of an eye looking at you and winking. And the flash is so bright with the star scope that it almost burns your eye.
They continued to follow the object across the field.
Past the farmer's house and across in the next field. Now we have multiple sightings of up to 5 lights with a similar shape and all, but they seem to be steady now rather than pulsating or glow with a red flash. Two further forward, we're at the far side of the farmer's field, and made sighting again about 110 degrees. I just get off because it's right on the horizon.
The fuck?
Moves about a bit, flashes from time to time. Still steady or red in color. Also, after negative readings in the cellular field, we're picking up slight readings, 4 or 5 clicks now on the meter. 305 at about 10 degrees horizon, directly north. We've got 2 strange objects, half moon shape, dancing about with colored lights on them. That gets to be about 5 to 10 miles out, maybe less. The half moons have now turned into full circles. As though there was an eclipse or something there for a minute or two. Now we're both heading north. Here he comes from the south. He's coming toward us now. Well, we're observing what appears to be a beam coming down to the ground. This is unreal.
I don't have any strong feelings either way on the subject of UFOs. I've just never given this much thought. But hearing that tape, and understanding the nature of the people that witnessed this. Professional United States Air Force personnel don't go in for planks on scale. They don't make things up. The point that a lieutenant colonel is out in that forest describing what he's seen live, you have to accept that something was going on. But those Air Force personnel were not the only people in the forest that night.
I'm with Albert.
Albert's fine.
I'm with Albert Wilmarth in the field at the back of the Akeley house. So, we have the house behind us, and across the field here, that's Russian Forest.
That's right.
Henry Akeley and Amelia Fenner were out here in this field on Christmas night, 20th of December, 1980.
Yes, that's right. Henry and Amelia and several others were out here performing some ritual.
And during the course of this ritual, the Rendlesham Forest incident happened. And that freaked Henry out.
I think it's more complicated than that. I think Henry believed that the Rendlesham incident was the result of the ritual.
They summoned aliens.
Well, Henry said he never believed the Rendlesham incident had anything to do with aliens. Now, before we... I need to point out that I'm a bystander. I'm a local vicar. I have an interest in folklore. That doesn't mean I believe in any of this stuff.
You don't believe in God?
Oh God, yes, obviously, that's very much a job requirement, but it's a fine line that I have to walk. Do I believe that the Son of God was crucified to save mankind? Yes, I do believe that. I take that as a literal truth. So you might already say I'm credulous because I don't require proof for my beliefs. But that said, my interest in local folklore is not based on any kind of belief. You know, the tale of Old Shook, for example.
Old Shook being...
Well, it's a dog. It's sometimes called Black Shook. It's a big black dog sighted in this area for centuries. There's a church over in Blythe, Holy Trinity Church, and the door there still bears scorch marks that were supposedly made in 1577 when the devil took the form of Old Shook, burst through those doors and killed 2 parishioners. Do I believe that literally happened? No, I don't. Despite believing in the devil, I don't think that happened. Do I think there's a chance that a rabid dog killed 2 people during a church service and that the legend grew from there? Well, that's a possibility, isn't it? And how that legend grows and weaves itself into the local narrative is interesting to me.
So you're saying something did happen here over Christmas in 1980?
Oh, I'm certain something happened. There are a lot of very credible witnesses from the US Air Force. I think they saw something. Was it aliens? I don't personally believe that. But nor do I believe it was angels or whatever Henry Akeley thought he and the others had summoned.
Okay, but Henry believed it.
Oh, I think so, yes.
And so his actions after that were informed
that's what he was doing in the forest on the day I first met him. What he'd been doing ever since 1980, and what he continued to do right up until he disappeared. He was investigating. He believed there was something in those woods, that it had somehow been awoken by this ritual, and that he was therefore somehow responsible for laying it to rest again. And then, as we know later, he came to believe that he had been targeted by whatever it was, that it was after him in some way.
And what do you think?
Well, I like Henry. I mean, he's not an easy man to get along with. I think that underneath the bluster and the bad temper, he's a good man. But Henry had a long history with drugs. He'd spent a lot of time with people like Amelia Fenner, and I think that had affected Henry's mind in a permanent way. I'm not a doctor, but if you're asking my opinion, I think Henry had been suffering from delusions for a while. I think they were getting worse, and I think ultimately they got the better of him. Wherever he is now, I would be surprised if he's still the Henry Akeley I first met a decade ago.
And he told you about his investigation, about these things that were supposedly trying to get into his house.
He did.
And you humored him.
Why would you think I...
He said you were the only one he trusted.
I don't think I humored him. But he would come to me and tell me these things, and I was aware that if I just flat out denied these beliefs he had, he would stop coming to me.
Oh, I wish my
And he
sinus
wasn't
cold
about to
would
seek
go
medical
away.
help.
I don't like sniffling.
I hope that I didn't enable or reinforce anything. I didn't want him to be on his own. I thought if I could be his friend, then perhaps I could help.
But he never brought you any evidence of anything.
Well, how could he? There was no evidence.
You talked about a broadcast he wanted to play you.
Yes, something he was hearing on his shortwave radio. But every time I went, no, it was like that. Missed it, or happened just after I'd left again. Just like the few times he asked me to stay open to witness these visitors who would come to the house in the middle of the night.
They never came.
I don't know where Henry is, if he's alive or dead. But I think as far as what you're trying to do, to find a mystery, the mystery is in the workings of the human mind. I don't think it's an external thing. This area has all this folklore, hellhounds and witches and mermaids, even aliens now. But you know what else it has a lot of? Insanity. The big skies, The open spaces, the harsh environment. People get lonely out here, and that can start to eat away at their mental health. If you want to know what happened to Henry, I think that's where the answer lies.
And you think that's the case?
Yeah. The Amelia Fenner connection was worth checking out, but I think Wilmoth was right. Henry might have been into witchcraft, but he was more into drugs. But I think his disappearance is more to do with the mental state resulting from that lifestyle than witches or fucking Martians.
So you want to pull the plug?
Unless you've got anything?
Well, I've been working my way through Akeley's recordings. There's some weird stuff there, but I could definitely say this. You know, it's as likely the diary of a man losing his grip on sanity as anything else.
Maybe that's interesting. Wilmarth was talking about this being a mystery of the mind. Does that have legs?
I don't know, maybe. People do disappear, don't they? Elderly people, especially if they're on their own. It doesn't really get much coverage. Maybe it is that. Use this one example of Henry Akeley as a way to open up a conversation about a wider thing.
I'd listen to that.
If you were subscribing to a mystery podcast, though, is that what you want to hear?
I don't know. Maybe I'm not the demographic.
Well, let's rustle up some millennials and do some audience research. Where are you now?
I'm back in Orford at the hotel. I'm gonna pack up my stuff, get something to eat, and head home.
All right, see you tomorrow. Have a think about this idea, though, the mystery of the mind thing.
I will. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, bye.
It's 10:17 p.m. I'm in the car. I'm heading back to London from Orford, and I just drove along the road where Henry Akeley's house is, and there's a light on. The upstairs light. I think the spare bedroom. And I think there's someone up there. I don't have any phone service here. And if I drive to somewhere where I might get some service, whoever it is, it could be gone when I get back. And maybe the Henry's come home. I think we have the only other key. There's no cars parked anywhere, so... I'm not seeing any movement now, but I'm sure I saw a shadow move past the window as I was pulling over. Okay, here we go. It's pitch black out here. I don't know how anyone coped with living in the countryside. No wonder they all go crazy. Still no movement up there. Yeah, maybe we don't surprise the intruder by just walking in. Oh yeah, smart. Press the doorbell that connects to the missing guy's phone. That I was not expecting. The light has come on beneath the camera. Hello, Mr. Akeley? My name is Kennedy Fisher. Hello? You kids are creepy, you know that? Hello? Is anyone there? And now the light has gone off upstairs. Hello? Mr. Akeley? Hello? Somebody out there? Unless you're Mr. Akeley, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to be here.
How the fuck?
I've called the police and they're on their way right now. Empty. But the radio is back on. Well, if there was anyone here, they've gone. Someone was here. We definitely turned that radio off. I can't see that anything else has been disturbed. Then it's not as if this was.
think I have the right idea.
This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
Surgeons keep our hearts beating. They do the amazing, help save lives, and so can you. Your CSL plasma donation can help create 24 critical life-saving medicines that can give Grandpa the chance for his heart to swell.
Oh God. Oh
Or
God,
give
I'm dying.
Bride the chance for her heart to skip a beat on her wedding day. Every plasma donation helps more than you know.
I don't like being sick.
Help save
I don't
lives.
want to be
Donate
sick.
today at your local CSL Plasma Center and be rewarded for your generosity.
Alright, that touches...
Music, radio, podcasts.
Tuesday, 7th of May. It's 11:04 a.m. The broadcast came through at about 3 o'clock this morning. I can't be precise about when it started, but it woke me up just after 3. It was the same content, but I think the voice has changed. Can't be sure. I tried to cut in on the frequency, but no one responded. I overslept, and when I woke up, there was a black car parked in the lane across from me. I couldn't see who was inside, and I don't know how long they'd been there. I came out the front door, and they drove away. A few minutes ago, I looked out the window, and Walter Brown was standing at the gate, staring up at the house. When he saw me, he said something that I couldn't hear, and then he turned and walked away.
Okay, this is a... You can shut up. From this window, I can't see down to the front door. And it's too dark out there anyway. Who's there? Calm down. Calm down, calm down. Something heavy. Something sharp. Okay. Now I'm gonna confront the Martian invaders with a rolling pin and a pair of scissors. Listen to me. I'm armed and the police are on their way. That's better?
God damn it. Link.
Now I want you to step away from the front door. Huh. There's no one here. Get to the car. Just get to the car. Go.
They're in your car.
Kennedy drove straight back to London without stopping.
Never mind.
The next morning, she played me the recording, and we went across the road to the cafe to talk it all through.
So, what was it?
I didn't see anything.
Okay.
I didn't imagine something banging on the door. The door's actually shaking. And anyway, you heard it on the tape.
And when you opened the door, there was nothing there.
You heard the tape?
Yeah, I'm just...
Sorry, I didn't sleep too well.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
I don't know if there's anything there.
My
I ran
sinuses
like
are
hell to the
getting
car and
worse.
drove away. I didn't look back. Maybe it was kids.
At that time, all right. And I don't think you get freaked out by kids playing games. Anyway, we don't know what it was. I'm interested in the radio broadcast.
It sounded like a number station to me.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
In case you don't know, number stations are shortwave radio broadcasts, usually consisting of a recording of someone reading out a series of numbers. It's generally believed that these are coded instructions being broadcast to spies in the field. Number stations were used a lot in the Cold War, and some of them are still going today. No one knows where most of them broadcast from or to. The whole thing is kind of spooky. The most famous is one known as the Lincolnshire Poacher, which goes like this.
I actually know this one.
39715. 39715.
So it's a whole weird thing.
You can hear hundreds of these online, and the more you listen to them, the stranger the world seems. Anyway, what Kennedy had heard in Henry Akeley's house sounded like one of these.
Except I don't think there were numbers.
It certainly didn't sound like English. I was going to play it to a few people and see if anyone could tell us what language it's in.
You know the hotel where we stayed in Orford?
Mm.
There's a plaque on the wall of the building.
Yeah, the guys who invented radar stayed there.
Right. They were working on a facility in Orford, just across the river. That whole place was a top-secret weapons testing facility for most of the 20th century.
Was it still operating in 1980?
I think parts of it were. And there was a radio transmitter. That could have been used to broadcast number stations.
It's not still working now, is it?
Supposedly not. But it means that there were people in the area, maybe still around, who would know how to put broadcast.
Do you think it could have been something from Orford Ness? Some kind of experimental craft that the US Air Force guys saw in the forest?
Maybe. And Henry Akeley and Amelia Fenner and whoever else, they're in that field dancing around naked or whatever they're doing, off their faces on hallucinogens.
And something crashes or lands or whatever, and they think it's these angels they've summoned.
It ties some things together.
It doesn't explain whatever was trying to get into Henry Akeley's house last night.
Well. But other people were there that night in 1980 for the ritual. It only takes one of them to have fallen out with Henry Akeley, and to know that this is exactly how you'd freak him out.
I had the photographs that I'd taken of Henry Akeley's walls on my laptop, so we pulled up the picture from the local paper, the one we'd first spotted Amelia Fenner in. Under the headline, Local People Witness Alien Landing, there was a group shot of 5 people, Amelia Fenner, Henry Akeley, and 3 others.
Does it give the names of the others?
The caption just identifies them as members of an amateur astrology club.
I think that cover's blown.
It only quotes a guy called Thomas Marston in the text. Doesn't say who the others are.
Kennedy wanted to head back to Suffolk and track down the other members of Amelia Fenner's group. We thought we should also find out more about this man, Walter Brown, that Henry Akeley kept referring to. I was intrigued by the radio broadcast we'd heard, and I had a couple of people I wanted to talk to about that. I think, back then, we both had a sense that we had started making real progress in unravelling, if not what had happened to Henry Akeley, then at least the circumstances leading up to his disappearance. We were quite young. I'm Matthew Hayward, and this is The Whisperer in Darkness.
I just called on Albert Wilmarth at the vicarage, but there's no one there. I'm hoping I'm going to find him in the church. Am I disturbing anything?
No, just tidying up. Takes about a minute. Not like we have a large and raucous congregation. You recording this?
Is that okay? I tend to record everything because you never know what's going to happen.
Well, I'll be discreet about the parishioners.
I was hoping you could tell me who the people are in this photo.
Where did this come from?
It was on the wall in Henry Akeley's spare room. Does anyone else have a key to his house?
I wouldn't know, I'm afraid. Why?
The other night, I drove by on my way back to London. I told Albert about what happened that night. The suspected intruder. The broadcast.
This was the broadcast Henry wanted me to hear.
I don't know, I guess so.
What was it?
We're trying to figure that out. It sounded like nonsense. A recording of a child saying, well, sounds really. Do you know what a number station is?
I don't.
Okay. We're looking into it. And while I was there, something came to the door.
Something?
Well, almost certainly someone, but it was freaky. They were hammering on the door, and when I opened it, there was no one there. I don't know what reaction I was expecting, but Albert Wilmarth just nodded like this was something that happened all the time. You don't seem surprised.
I think I'm relieved, in a way.
Relieved?
Well, I thought Henry was losing his mind. But I didn't do anything. I didn't call anyone because I thought talking to me was helping. I should have done more. But if something was really going on, then Henry wasn't delusional.
He's still missing.
Yes, of course, yes.
I think the people in this picture might know something.
My glasses, 1 second. Right, well, this is Henry, obviously, and Amelia Fenner. And this chap here is Thomas Marston.
Do you know where I can find him?
Yes, he's about 20 yards that way. He's buried here. He died about 5 years ago.
How did he die?
He took his own life, I'm afraid. He hanged himself. I didn't realise he'd been in this group with Henry. We never saw them together, and Henry never mentioned him to me. And this is Walter Brown.
The neighbour.
Well, I suppose in the rural sense he's the neighbour. His house is about half a mile from Henry's. I'd avoid Walter if I were you.
Why?
Because he... Well, on tape, I'd say he's not the friendliest man in the area.
And if I turn the tape off?
It's not really my place to speak ill of anyone. The police can probably provide you with more information on Walter.
Henry talks about him on his recordings.
I imagine he does. Okay. Now, this woman here, I've seen her. I just can't please her. Yes, I can. It's Dunwich. I don't know her name, but she works in the little museum at Dunwich.
Is it too early for a drink?
It's 10 o'clock in the morning.
I'll have a Bloody Mary. Spicy. Let's lunchtime.
I could use a Bloody Mary right now.
Ben runs.
Oh, actually, I think I still have stuff for Bloody Mary.
For television. He also has a somewhat murky past working as some kind of liaison between the armed forces and the intelligence services. I got in touch through a mutual acquaintance, and Ben was intrigued by the radio broadcast Kennedy had recorded at the Akeley House. He suggested we meet at his club on Pall Mall.
Well, it certainly sounds like something. Not sure it's one of ours. Where did you record it?
Well, we don't know where it was
enough
broadcasting
decent
from, but my
weapons
colleague
to
heard it
do
on
this.
a private shortwave radio up in Suffolk.
I have to try.
I wondered if it might be something to do with Orford Ness.
Did you indeed? What do you know of Orford Ness?
Well, I know it was a weapons testing facility.
What?
And I know it's where they developed radar.
Kidding?
Quite true.
And I know there's been some talk of Orford Ness being somehow tied in with the Rendlesham Forest incident.
Uh-huh.
Yes?
Well, having acquainted myself with your series on the case of Charles Dexter
Ward,
I imagine something like Rendlesham would be the focus.
Look, it's not the focus, but it might be related. The man whose radio we heard this on went missing a few months ago, and we're trying to
Yes, I see. Yeah.
No.
I'm not your man, I'm afraid.
Oh. I was
Well, I can
told-
talk about what went on militarily at Orford Ness, the declassified stuff at least.
Okay.
The military left Orford in 1993. Relevant to you after that strange broadcasts or lights in the sky.
Damn it.
Do you
Trying
know
to
someone?
flurry of blows.
Right now. Time does fly, doesn't it? Good to meet you, Mr. I wish you luck.
In the Middle Ages, Dunwich was a port the size of London, with a population of several thousand. Then a series of heavy storms and ongoing sea erosion destroyed the town. Most of it now lies beneath sand and silt in the murky North Sea. Today, the population of what remains of Dunwich is under 200. There's a pub and a tea room and a museum which tells the story of the town as it was. In that museum, I'm hoping to find the mystery room from the UFO news clipping. Instantly, I walk into the place I see her. The museum is small, just one room, and there's a model of Dunwich, as it would have looked, in the center. Some tourists are studying the model, and the woman talking to them is unmistakably the woman in the photograph of Henry Akeley. As I approach, I see she's wearing a name tag. Tanya Ratcliffe.
Hello, welcome to Dunwich. Thank you.
I wondered if I could talk to you for a few minutes.
About the model?
About a man called Henry Akeley.
I'm sorry, I
Or Amelia Fenner?
I think you may have me confused with someone else.
I didn't have her confused with anyone, and I could tell from her reaction that she knew exactly who I was talking about.
I'm working on a podcast series about the disappearance of Henry. I'm sorry, I'm on duty here, and I have people.
Well, when do you take a break? I could buy you a cup of tea.
No, I'm sorry, I'm very busy, and I have no idea who these people are. I'm sorry.
I've been called a lot of things, but easily deterred is not one of them. I went into the pub next door, found myself a seat by the window, and hooked up to their Wi-Fi to do some homework on Tanya Ratcliffe. I didn't think a woman in her 60s would be a heavy presence on social media, but actually, Tanya was more than pulling her weight. There was a Twitter account that mainly seemed to have stuff to do with the museum, Instagram for the same purpose, and a Facebook account
Don't
that she
have
used to keep
enough.
in touch with some cousins in New Zealand, and she belonged to a couple of pagan groups that seemed pretty inept and harmless. Then it occurred to me that the museum might have its own Wi-Fi network. It was only next door, so I'd be within range. I looked it up, and there it was. But it was passworded, and hacking into other people's Wi-Fi is not something I can do in a rush. So I called Slide.
All right, Kay, what do you need?
Slide is not his real name. He's a guy I call when I need something done that's technical, but not technically legal. I've got a Wi-Fi network that's in range, but it's passworded, and I want to know if a particular person's phone is currently connected to it.
Okay. Emailing you a link you need to click to let me think about your laptop.
Got it.
Right. Let's see what we have.
It took Slide about 90 seconds to get into the museum's Wi-Fi network.
I've got 5 phones signed on. Are you after?
Tanya Ratcliffe.
Tanya's phone, there it is. What do you need?
I don't know yet.
Right.
there's not much here. Looks like mostly work stuff.
What's the cause? Has she been in touch with a
I didn't do shit.
Akeley in the past few months?
No, his name's in her contact list, but no recent calls, texts, or emails.
Oh, she's hiding something. Can you send me the whole contact list?
It is on his way.
Alright, thanks, Slide.
We done?
We're done.
Have a good one.
I scrolled down the list of Tanya's contacts, not really expecting to find anything. And then I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. Through the window, I could see Tanya walking out of the museum and away down the street, presumably on her way.
Move!
Damn it. To talk. I turned back to my laptop to close it. And that's when my eye caught a name on the list. A name that turned the world upside down and made my blood run cold.
About 2 hours after I left Ben, the TV producer, to his Bloody Mary in his Pall Mall club, I got a call.
Mr. Hayward, I have information for you.
Who is this?
I have information on the radio broadcast. Meet me at level 6 of the Bloomsbury Square car park in 30 minutes.
I don't understand. Did Ben contact you? Bloomsbury Square car park is designed like a corkscrew, winding down and down into the ground beneath London with no corners, so that from any one spot you can't see very far up or down before the driveway curves away from you. The first thing I see as I step out into the corkscrew is a fox, standing on the roof of the dusty, dented car. Its eyes glow as it stares at me. This far down, the car park
Damn it!
deserted, save for
Sprinkles,
cars that
that's
have been
fine.
abandoned down here for days or weeks.
Just need the thing. Just give me the thing.
No!
No!
The 30-minute deadline hasn't given me any time to worry.
Damn it.
But now the anxiety comes flooding in. I'm alone, deep underground, and I don't know who I'm meeting or what their intention is. Her voice was coming from a speaker somewhere over on my right, down a slope. It was dark down there and I couldn't see where it was. I'm recording this.
That's okay.
Well, it's not, because I can't pick you up properly on the mic. I need to be closer. Hello?
Take 4 paces forward. Now, turn to your right and take 10 paces. Better?
Yeah. What should I call you?
I don't care what you call me. The broadcast you heard. Babylon.
Babylon?
It's being broadcast locally.
Give me.
I don't know.
Now, fuck.
Can't see anything there.
Who's sending it?
The who isn't important. It's the why.
Okay, why?
You're nearly onto something, but you're in danger of going down the wrong path. Listen out for the phrase Pleasant Green.
What's that?
Pleasant Green of Babylon. If you're following that trail, you're going in the right direction.
Okay.
And don't trust the woman.
What woman?
The researcher. Kennedy Fisher.
Don't trust Kennedy. Hello? Jesus!
I kept my distance from Tanya Radcliffe and followed her as she walked along the main street of Dunwich, heading towards the beach. But before she got to the beach, she turned off into a footpath that led uphill through trees. The footpath was narrow and uneven, and it wound up through the trees above the beach. I was torn between not getting too close because I didn't want to spook Tanya, and being close enough to lose her if she took a turn out of sight. As it was, I did lose sight of her, and I hustled
Mine.
to run into her hopping path. She was standing just off the trail, at the edge of the cliff, looking out across the sea.
Miss Radcliffe?
Right.
I want to know about Henry.
She said this without turning around. I guess she'd already spotted me.
700 years ago, we'd have been looking down at a town, a mile across. A port, shipbuilding, and now there's nothing left of it. They say you can still hear the church bells ringing sometimes under the water. This is where it arrived.
Where what arrived?
Travelled overland for weeks and weeks, and then they put it on a ship, and it came here.
What are we talking about?
You don't know what any of this is about, do you?
Not yet. I'm looking for Henry Akeley.
You won't find him.
Why not?
They won't let you. This is how they cover their tracks. A whole town dumped into the sea.
I thought that was storms.
Storms. The government, aliens. There's always an explanation, but never the truth.
What is the truth? You can talk to me, Tanya. What's the truth?
The truth is Babylon.
I don't know what that is. You don't know anything. I know you have Barbara Sayers' phone number in your contact list. Funny story. I met her last year in Rhode Island and she tried to kill me. Small world, huh? How do you know Barbara? Tanya Ratcliffe looked at me for about quite a few seconds. She'd gone pale at the mention of Barbara Sayers, and I thought she was finally going to talk to me straight. But then she turned away.
How do I get up there?
I walked right off the edge of the cliff.
Wait, what? She walked off the edge of a cliff?
This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
Doesn't help.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Wednesday, the 15th of May. It's coming up to 6:15 in the evening. I was out most of the day. When I got home, I knew someone had been in the house. Again. They hadn't taken anything that I could see. But the radio was back on, and some things on the desk had been moved around. Just a little bit, but just enough that I could tell. I wonder if they do that on purpose, so that I know that they've been here. Doors and windows are all watered, and the proximity gizmo on the front door didn't register anyone coming in. But they were here. Don't know how they get past the wards. I've seen that black car again a few times over the last few days. Once it was parked outside the church. I'm worried about Wilmarth. Never intended to drag him into all this.
Pleasant Green and Babylon.
Nope.
If you're following
Nope.
that trail,
Nope.
you're going in the right
Nope.
direction.
God damn it.
Don't trust the woman.
What woman?
The researcher. Kennedy Fisher.
Don't trust Kennedy. Hello? Jesus Christ.
They're not down here, I must have passed you.
Okay, we need X2, we'll regroup there.
I don't know how the hell I'm gonna get that out. I need a plank of wood or something.
I waited underneath a parked car for the better part of an hour, until I was as certain as I could be that whoever those people were, they had stopped looking for me. I didn't know who the mystery woman I'd met down there was. I didn't know who the people
Did it
who arrived
reset?
were, whether they were after me or her. But all of that could wait. Right now, I
damn
just
it.
wanted to be out of that place. I don't know if anyone has ever been so glad to step out into a grey London day.
Hi, you've reached Kennedy Fisher. I'm not available at the moment, but leave a message and I'll call you back.
I dialed 999 from the top of the cliff, and within 10 minutes, there was an ambulance down on the beach, and they were loading Tanya Ratcliffe's body into the back of it. The police came and found me, and I gave them a statement. And then they drove me to the police station, and I gave them another statement, and I played them the recording of the conversation with Tanya. I had to tell them about the show and about our investigations into Henry Akeley's disappearance, and that seemed to prompt a flurry of phone calls. I guess because another department somewhere had Akeley's disappearance as an ongoing thing.
Hi, excuse me. Can you find out if they're done with me now?
I'm sitting in the waiting area of a police station.
You can't record in here.
Where does it say that?
It doesn't say it, but you can. Switch it off or I'll take it away from you.
They must have squared it all away because they let me go after a couple of hours. Once they were sure I wasn't going to skip the country and they could get a hold of me for whatever follow-up they needed to do.
Are you okay, though?
I'm fine. You?
We'd reconvened at the cafe across the road from the studio and swapped stories of our recent experiences.
This one's getting interesting, huh?
Yeah, maybe too interesting. Too quickly. I still don't have much of an idea of what it's all about.
No, but we have Babylon.
Except we don't know what it means. And Pleasant Green, which I googled, and there's no such place.
Maybe it's a code for something.
And then there's Barbara Sayers.
And if she's connected to any of this, then at least we know what general ballpark we're in.
One we don't want to be in.
What does that mean?
It means I spent the night yesterday hiding under a car from people who clearly meant me harm.
You've had worse.
Yeah, and I didn't enjoy worse. Getting beaten up outside a pub is worse than hiding under a car for an hour. But I'd swap either one for sitting in a nice warm studio investigating a mystery that no one cares about.
You want to walk away?
No.
Okay then. Is there anything else your guy said that might be useful?
No.
It's just because the recording cut out for a few seconds.
Yeah. That was just a human error.
That's why you should stay in the nice warm studio. So let's find out what Babylon is.
When Kennedy refers to the few seconds where the recording cut out, that is the part where the mystery woman told me not to trust Kennedy Fisher. I didn't play her that bit. I pretended I'd messed up the recording. So now I have to take a moment to confuse the hell out of you. I wish this could all be nice and linear, but I'm afraid that's not going to work anymore. How this works, this podcast, is we go out and we research, talk to people, all the stuff you've been hearing. And then at the end, when we've got the series, we go back and we lay in the connecting tissue, the studio narration, the music, and so on. So what you're hearing right now, my voice, I'm recording this right at the end of that process. But this narration is going into episode 4. So you, the listener, don't know as much as I do about what happens and where this goes. We don't like to play this game generally. We like you to be in lockstep with us as we find stuff out. But the problem I have now is that I had begun a separate investigation at this point. An investigation into Kennedy Fisher. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to turn anything up. But that woman in the underground garage got me a bit spooked. And then Tanya Ratcliffe fell off that cliff and... Let me play you that recording again.
Come on.
Truth is Babylon. I don't know what that is. No, you don't know anything. I know you have Barbara Sayers' phone number in your contact list. Funny story. I met her last year in Rhode Island and she tried to kill me. Small world, huh? How do you know Barbara?
Actually, I don't really remember what I was thinking at the time. But we seemed to be standing on shifting sands, and I wanted to know what was solid and what wasn't. So I began a side investigation.
What the fuck? So that worked?
And I'm telling you this now because, as I say, it's after the fact. So I'm able to drop that investigation into these episodes moving forward. And you just need to bear in mind that Kennedy was not aware of any of this happening at the time. Now, well, now is a different matter. I'm Matthew Hayward, and this is The Whisperer in Darkness.
Babylon was in the place. I don't know. I don't know. I caught the train down to Lewis in Sussex and paid a visit to Eleanor Peck in person. Not only had she put us on the trail of Henry Akeley in the first place,
do
but
I
she
get
was
up
the most
there?
likely person to know what Babylon was. Or so we thought.
Go that way?
Who told you about it? A woman called Tanya Ratcliffe, who was in a coven or whatever with Henry Akeley.
Well, I suppose if anyone was going to be prancing about in the woods, it'd be Henry. You're not concerned with
I can't get up there?
that shit fiction version of the world that Henry seems to subscribe to?
Tanya Ratcliffe knew Barbara Sayers.
Come on, baby.
Did Henry ever?
No, of course not. I wouldn't say it, especially because of what happened.
Yeah. Did Matt play the recording?
With Henry? Yeah, I've heard some of them.
You know, the broadcast.
What broadcast?
I think it's maybe some kind of covert government signal. Matt probably thought it wasn't your thing, but Henry talks about it on his recording, so... Hold on, I have it here. It just repeats over and over.
Play again? You were mishearing it. It's not Babylon, it's Babylon. Babylon.
This means something to you?
This is a language, the broadcast. Enochian. It's a magical language, the language of the angels, supposedly. It comes from the Book of Enoch, which is one of the Gospels missing from the Bible.
Okay.
It's spelling out the word B-A-B-A-L-O-N.
What does it mean?
Well, it's part of Aleister Crowley's Thelemic pantheon. Babylon is a goddess, kind of like Mother Earth, but also referencing the whore of Babylon. Crowley believed that she could be summoned into the body of a human woman.
I'm assuming he didn't manage to do that.
Not that we know of. Mostly he just
Oh,
wrote
come
about
on,
it
leave me
endlessly.
alone.
It's all derived from the Enochian magic John Dee and Edward Kelly performed in the 16th century.
You might need to slow down a little bit.
Okay. John Dee was a mathematician, astronomer, and occult philosopher. He was one of Elizabeth I's advisors.
Seriously?
Yeah. Remember the line back then between science and magic was very blurry. Anyway, John Dee delivered a system called Enochian magic, essentially performing rituals using angelic language. He talked about Babylon as this kind of evil elemental force, but of course it was all tied into suspicion of women and this notion that you're either a mother, a whore, or a witch. Crowley picked up on it and wrote about Babylon as a kind of earth goddess that could be summoned. The really interesting part of all this, though, is how Jack Parsons picked up the ball and ran with it.
And Jack Parsons
was Californian rocket engineer. He developed a solid fuel system for the first rockets, but the US government shit-canned him for being a nutter. And he was a mate of Crowley's and belonged to this sex magic group out in Pasadena. Parsons attempted the Babylon working towards the end of 1945. He was working with an assistant, which is of passing interest because the assistant was an aspiring sci-fi novelist called L. Ron Hubbard.
No shit.
I know. Anyway, Parsons is halfway through the ritual when, at the beginning of 1946, this woman, Marjorie Cameron, shows up. She's this flame-haired babe, and Jack convinces himself she must have been sent to him by the forces of whatever as part of the ritual. So he sets about trying to impregnate her in the belief that the child would be the earthly magic.
Which goes back around to the Ward case. Why did it stop? Don't stop. Okay. I want you to continue on this computer, please.
Yes.
And they put this guy in charge of rockets?
Supposedly, Marjorie Cameron did get pregnant, but she had an abortion. Jack Parsons, meanwhile, had all his money stolen by Hubbard and then blew himself up in his garage mixing explosives for a film set. Marjorie Cameron is actually interesting, as she went on to become quite notable in the art world, was mates with a load of film stars in the 60s, and was considered something of an authority in the world of ufology, for whatever that's worth.
UFOs?
Oh yeah, it's all tied in. Parsons claimed to have seen cylindrical objects floating in the sky all through his Babylon working. These people never met an unexplained phenomenon they couldn't work into their mythology. You've seen Crowley's drawing of Lamb.
What of what?
1918, Aleister Crowley is living in New York, just off Central Park. He attempted something called the Amalantra working, during which he claims to have summoned an entity called Lamb, which is supposedly some kind of ultimate evolution of the human species. Whatever. What's interesting is that Crowley drew a picture of Lamb. Hold on. I can Google it.
You should Google this right now. Pause this episode here and Google Crowley Lamb, L-A-M. What you're going to see is a drawing Aleister Crowley made in 1918.
I'm gonna look this up.
29 years before Roswell, decades before people were reporting UFO abductions en masse. And yet this drawing looks exactly like the classic gray alien. It's really uncanny.
Yeah.
Spooky, isn't it? Nonsense, of course.
That is a thing.
These kind of images have been around earlier than 1918. There were already science fiction novels published with illustrations of aliens just like this one. Crowley would have seen those.
Okay, but if Amelia and Henry and the others were performing some kind of ritual the night these UFOs showed up in the forest, could that have been the Babylon working?
Who knows? I guess you'd have to ask them.
Yeah, all good. This is a terrible line. Where are you?
Okay, I need to stop here for the night. Unfortunately, I do have work tomorrow. It's been fun. I'm really enjoying this fucking radio show, though. I'm a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft. Let me put that up there. And the reason why I'm kind of listening to it again is because I'm trying to put together a D&D campaign together with a group of friends. Thinking about maybe doing like an online version of it too, where it basically starts normal for the most part, you know, adventuring party, etc., etc. But I'm going to be having them visit the area of Ravenloft. Not specifically the Ravenloft, but the areas around it, so the Realms of Dread. And one of the big things with the Realms of Dread is that one of the game mechanics of it is horror and sanity, which is the same thing as like the tabletop version of Call of Cthulhu, which of course is based off of the H.P. Lovecraft stuff. And later on down the line, I was going to actually pull in some of that Lovecraft mythos into the D&D world. So I'm trying to get into that type of storytelling experience and not just understand it a bit better, but trying to figure out like how I can interpret it my way and where I want the story eventually to go with the group. And I think I have a general idea of what I want to do with it, because it technically, the Realms of Dread happen over and over and over again. Whenever Count Strahd loses his shit, because it's his purgatory. That's what the Realms of Dread are. It's purgatory. It's baddest of the bad motherfuckers out there who've killed, who've done God knows what, are stuck in this world to repeat their life over and over again until they lose their sanity. And I want my group here. I want them to try to find a way to make it stop. But I want them to stumble across the old ones, which would be the deities, the Lovecraftian deities. Something that's preventing them from stopping it. It'll be like a level 20 plus thing by the time that they reach that, but it's still something that I need to work out story-wise how I want that to happen. Anyways, I'm going to stop being a nerd and go now. It's been fun. Thanks for stopping by. I'll be back tomorrow with more Zelds and more Lovecraft. So have a good night, and I'll see you next time. Let's have some music. It's not what I wanted. There we go. All right, take care.